Sometimes it's like 10 seconds. Sometimes it's like,
what's happening? Are we
like right now we're like,
frozen?
There we go. We're in. Look at that. See?
We're in.
Just like that, we're in. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to episode 40 of the Big 40.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I got another local Ohio guy. Actually, super local, Delaware, Ohio, which is about what 10. It should be 10 minutes, but all the crappy travel. But
call it 28 because that's what Nav
28
says.
minutes, yeah, 28 minutes, but just a little bit north of where we're at here. But as you can see, and if you've looked at the stuff I put up, Emmett is an Army guy, former sergeant, first class, retired type infantryman. So we got a great story, and Emmett has a really interesting story. I just literally found out about it like 12 minutes ago, probably. Yeah. Emmett has been the most elusive guest we've ever had about getting information. So, but we're good to go. Emmett and I met at a bar, right?
Yeah, I was having
at a bar,
dinner,
yeah.
You know?
Having dinner, just hanging, and we'll get into the story. But like I said, born in Delaware?
No, I was actually born across the pond. My pops was in the Air Force,
okay,
and it was at a High Wycombe Air Force Base in England.
Uh-huh.
So, I came into the world with dual citizenship.
So when did you have to revoke that?
Yeah, when I joined the Army.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, because it's crazy that's one of the things. My sister was a dual citizen. I think 18 she had to say yay or nay. Germany.
I mean, I don't blame America, right? Like we were like the Brits were on the losing side of the whole revolution. So I mean,
are we allowed to say that? Yeah, we are. No,
I think so. Yeah,
no, cool.
We got mad love for him now, but
so I mean, that takes into question. So growing up, your dad was a Air Force guy.
Yeah, so like kind of legacy family.
Okay.
Pops was Air Force and Navy.
Okay.
Served on one of the nuclear class subs, the USS Norwal. It's like now Razor Blades, but and then my grandfather, he was a Korea World War II vet, served with President Bush. He was all three branches: Army, Navy, Air Force. That's the order he went in. So
interesting.
And then my great grandfather fought in the Civil War. Then you can keep going back, right? So, yeah.
You got the British in you too. I mean, you got the losing side of that.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I was just born there. Yeah.
All right. So before we get started, we always start off with a quote as we get deep there. But the first quote came from Rudyard Kipling, and thought about this one and we'll talk more as we get on. I think people understand why I chose this quote. But in times of war, not before God and the soldier we adore, but in times of peace and all things righted, God is forgotten and the soldier slighted. So thought that was a good quote for you. As we get going there, you're a man of God from what we talked and then what you shared with me. So thought that was a good quote to throw in there for you, and we could talk more. So grew up, you kind of took it, you started going though, so that military was always in your blood?
It may have been in the bloodline, but it definitely wasn't on my radar. So I was the kid that was not going to join the military at all. I was going to play college football or basketball, only I didn't have the grades or the skills to support that dream. So kind of thought my wife, I've been with my wife since like high school, right? My second freshman year. And we kind of had a scare my senior year where we were like, maybe we're pregnant. We're going to be like, on that crazy show. Right. But we weren't, but I already committed to joining the Army because at the time I was working produce department at Kroger's, and I was kind of thinking in my head, I was like, I don't want to be living with my wife and her parents, trying to raise a kid. That's not the life I want. So I was like, whatever, I'll go into the military. I thought I'd be a Marine, but they shut the door on me fast and in a hurry too. They were like, no, you're not good enough.
They told you that?
Oh yeah, literally to my face. Like they're very upfront, and God bless them. But
what did they say the reason why they didn't want you?
So I had a pretty extensive juvenile career.
Okay.
I was definitely I didn't stray away from trouble. It kind of found me. Actually, I kind of found it. I'd get into a lot of fights, with like dudes that were kind of like bullies. I'd do dumb stuff. Step on it, so to speak, right? Nothing too crazy. Like I wasn't out there selling drugs, and I wasn't like, I don't know. You could think of like a crazy litany of stuff, but like at the end of the day, I like to use my fist to do my talking a lot of the time. So I was always in trouble with that, and I had a thing about authority. I didn't want to listen to my dad, So I ended up failing my first freshman year of high school, and because I had such a great time, and then I had to go back and repeat it, and that's good because that's when I met my wife, right? My second freshman year. But yeah, it took me 5 years to get through high school.
But you made it. That's all that matters.
I
Right?
did. I didn't quit.
Right? And I think that's a big thing. I mean, there's have you ever thought about this? This is 2000. What year did you graduate? 2001.
Yep.
Okay, so was this did 9/11 have anything to do with you wanting to join? Or did you make up your mind before that?
No, it's actually kind of funny. I joined in June of 2001.
Okay.
And I told everybody around me, I was like, look, perfect time to go in because I knew nothing about history and cycles of war. I was like, perfect time to go in. Nothing's going on. I should be fine. I'll do 6 years, use it as a career resume builder, and then I'll get out. In basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia, they were like, hey, the towers came down. We've been attacked. We're going to war. And we're like all infantrymen, right? We're like, yeah, whatever. You've been telling us this whole time that we're going to go to war and it's inevitable, blah, blah, blah. We get it. We're supposed to take it serious. They're like, we didn't believe them. We did not believe our drill sergeants. So they grouped us together on this range. My bad. They grouped us together in this range hut, old TV with the rabbit ear antennas. And we watched the second plane fly into the towers. And that's when we got it. We were like, oh, man, this isn't a joke. This is happening. Yeah. And it's happening right now.
Yeah, because it's interesting. Your timeline is right where that, I couldn't wait to ask that question because it was either that was the reason or like a lot of people, they were just like, hey, nothing seemed to be going on for a while, so let's give it a shot. But it definitely, that September change, and just I can't believe it was 22 years ago already. It's nuts.
I know, right?
22 days ago, yeah, Monday. That was nuts. It's changed a lot of people's lives, and like a lot of. So the infantry is like that. They hype you up that's what your sole purpose is, and what it was. But like you were right. Before that, we hadn't been to war since what? 91.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you did some other small conflicts, yeah, that were there, but definitely a big gap in it to do that. So you went in, you went to the Marine Corps. They said no. Hopefully, the Army was your second choice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you told me the Navy said you can get in, then it's gonna be a whole different conversation. So did you know you wanted to go infantry?
No, I didn't. My recruiter, you ever seen The Green Mile?
Yeah.
He looked like John Coffey. He was a big monster of a mountain of a man. And I remember opening the recruiting center door, and he was just so happened to be getting up out of his seat. And he was like right there in the door. I mean, right in the gap. Right. And he's like looking down. I opened the door and there's this wall. And I'm like, what the frick is this? And I have to look up. And it's this man. And I'm face to face with medals and like a whole resume of get out of my way. Right.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and he's like, what do you want? And I'm like, a job. He's like, what kind of job? The hardest job you have, sir. That was the conversation. And he looked at me and he's like, airborne infantry. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And that was it. It was literally that simple. I ASVAB'd up, got qualifying scores, good to go. They took care of my my legal problems. I had been off of probation for years at this point, it was just a matter of getting it expunged. But whatever, that all got taken care of. Too easy. I got in, and I was a quick ship too. Like I was considered an alpha because I was a high school senior, even though it was like my 5th year. But
they were like, this guy's gonna be good.
Yeah, he's really good. He's.
Did you tell him the Marines said no?
What?
Did you tell the Army guy that the Marines kicked you out?
So, funny parallel here. The Marine Corps actually did like me, but they were like, we're not going to touch you. It's too much work.
Yeah.
But they liked me enough. They were like, hey, we're going to plug you in with this Army guy a couple cities away that we know, a really good dude. He'll take care of you. But I had the same experience either way. And it was kind of cool because I didn't know that was going to be my recruiter. And I definitely didn't know it was a recruiter they had already handed me off to. So maybe it was a game. I don't know. Maybe they're like, yeah, he's ready to be a Marine, man. So just eat him up.
Yeah.
But no, it was good. It worked out good. I wasn't supposed to be in the Marine Corps. I ended up in the Army, and I got to do a job that was like really tough, demanding, and rewarding at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So No regrets.
So you went in as 11 Charlie, right?
Yep.
So
well, 11 X-ray actually.
Okay.
So you go in 11 X-ray, and then once you get to your battalion, then they start calling off roster numbers, and they're like, 387, 11 Charlie, and then my whole world ended because I was like, that's not 11 Bravo, right? And then they dropped the bomb on us. They're like, oh yeah, you're going to be in direct fire infantryman. It's like, what the frick is that? That's not infantry, is it? Like, it kind of is, not really, but yeah.
You're going to carry a lot of heavy stuff.
Yeah. It's kind of like artillery, and like my heart sank and shattered at the same time.
Yeah, so people don't know, Charlies are the mortarmen, right? I guess is the easiest way to say it. Indirect fire.
Indirect fire.
Yeah, so very, carry a lot of heavy stuff, have a very important job on the battlefield. But if you're 11 series, everybody wants to be a Bravo. That's kind of how it.
Because you think it's the door. I mean, they are the door kickers. They're the primary door kickers, fire and maneuver, right? That's what an 11 Bravo's job is. So they separated us at week 9, and we ended up going out to the 11 Charlie qualification range. They call it Hill Week and all this stuff. And it was really good because the drill sergeant that was out there, I mean, he was stacked. I'm talking Tower of Power, Airborne Air Assault, Pathfinder, CIB, Ranger, all of it. And I was like, are you an 11 Charlie? He was like,
yes.
Yeah,
dummy.
Yeah, he was like, that's the only question you get to ask me the whole time you're out here for 3 weeks.
And that was a dumb question.
That was a dumb question. I wasted it. But he gave me some good advice. He was like, look, if you want to be that door kicker or that dude that gets to kind of grab onto higher rungs outside of the infantry or inside of the infantry, he's like, just raise your hand and volunteer for everything. Have a good attitude and work hard. He's like, you'll if you do that, doesn't matter if you're 11 Charlie or not. You're going to go to all the schools. You're going to end up taking over an infantry platoon at some point, and you're going to serve at higher levels. And I was like, but I'm an 11 Charlie, man. like I couldn't get over it, but he was right. It was great advice. But yeah, 11 Charlie, and then I hit the force, right?
Yeah. Then we talked, and we've talked on the podcast several times about, we've got different branches on there, and you went to one of I think the worst posts ever, Fort Polk.
Yeah.
That's your first duty assignment. So you get kicked out of the Marines, you become an 11 Charlie, not 11 Bravo, and then they send you to Fort Polk. So you're like, you have the trifecta going, right?
Oh yeah, man. Fort Polk is horrible.
People think we're joking about that. We've never been there. It is honestly one of the worst places in the world.
I mean, it's cool because it's like the home of the Joint Readiness Training Center. And so like if you're in a if you're in a deployable unit at all, you have to cycle through there at some point, right? To get your grade card, so to speak. The cool thing that kind of happened to me right off the rip was it was summertime not summertime, it was November. But it's like super dry and hot down there all year long almost. And I'll never forget this. Like I came to this flashing red and yellow light, and there's a Burger King. It's on post too. Burger King, and then this gas station, and then there's this lonely tumbleweed just tumbling across the road. And I'm like, oh, where am I?
You're at Fort Polk.
There's no cars. There's no people that I can see. Everybody's either drunk inside their barracks or in their houses, or I don't know, but they're not outside. So it was lonely and depressing, and it was a shock, man. I realized right then and there, like, this isn't going to be easy. Like, I don't know anybody here, no family, no friends, and I'm alone. So begins the process of being resilient, right?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting. So nobody from your AIT went with you to Polk.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that's a crappy way. And then the training sets, like Emmett is saying, is like there's rotational units that come through there a lot. So it's a different type of base than a lot of other bases. And I think and you actually weren't part of the OPFOR we were talking about. You were actually which is even more unique, right? Because most of the time you go there, you get to do the OPFOR, the opposing force. Which is a fun job. But you didn't get to do that.
I didn't. It's like the infantry branch was like, we hate you, right? Like that's what it felt like, because you have Warrior Brigade, which is essentially like your support and sustainment brigade for the installation, and then you had the 509th Geronimo Operation or opposing forces battalion, infantry battalion, right? That's where everybody thinks they're going when they get orders for Fort Polk. Not me. Nope. I got orders specifically for the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment. I didn't even know that existed. One, it wasn't on the Army map when it showed like units, locations and stuff. There was no 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment on the map. I was like, what is this? But yeah, I got stationed there, and actually it was amazing. I probably had some of the best leadership I've ever had in my career at that unit. I mean, old school, like fire breathing water moccasins, like Old Testament kind of leadership, fire, blood, wrath of God kind of dudes.
Yeah.
That just believed in the whole like iron sharpens iron, and we're going to sharpen you to be like surgical. So it was an amazing environment.
And so that starts your first deployment. Then you were with what 2nd, 4th, what
2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment.
What division is it? 4ID?
It's a regiment. It's a regiment.
Oh, it's a regiment.
It's
okay,
a regiment.
Sorry,
yeah,
I know.
2nd Armored Cavalry.
It's
like 3rd ACR, like Brave Rifles.
Yeah, gotcha. Now it's coming back to me. I'm old. But so you guys actually deployed to Iraq then?
We did. So at the time, the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment was the only unit in the Army inventory that was primarily Humvees. Now, light infantry units have Humvees, but they don't have, at the time, they weren't stocked to support every infantry platoon or fire team, right? The 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment was all about anti-tank, anti-weapon type stuff. So like heavy machine guns, crew serves, and like tow missiles, stuff like that. So it was an amazing experience.
So were you part of the invasion, the initial invasion, or did you get there?
We got there in that time frame. Yeah. And we came right up behind the invasion force. Some of our guys were some of the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment was actually a part of the invasion force, and they were pulling like flank security for like convoys pushing in. But yeah, the unit was. Yeah. I was not.
So how quick was that when you got to Polk that you deployed to Iraq?
I got to Polk in November of 2001, and we deployed in late March, early April of 2003. So it's about like a year and a half.
So you had a little bit of time to get, like you said, to learn your craft a little bit.
Got a lot of time, and we lived in the field back then. Like I'm newly married. Like my wife graduated from high school that following summer of 2002. So we got married on July 1st, 2002. Brought her down, had a few weeks together, and then it was like see her here and there, kind of over the next year, leading up to deployment. So we got a crap ton of deployment, like pre-training in. It was, and the cool thing about being at the Joint Readiness Training Center is that like you also have like all the villages, right? So you have like Shugart and Gordon. So you got this big, massive mount complex to like sharpen your CQB skills. And you get to go up against other units, and like terrorize them.
Right.
So it was an amazing opportunity. We went out to California to the National Training Center at Fort Irwin. We got to do a rotation out there, which was really awesome because it's like all desert and the kind of like mountains. And back then, you remember like the Cyclops, like this PVS-7 Bravo, yeah. Like 2-into-1 tube, right? Trying to drive under those kind of nods is like watching the earth sparkle underneath you. You're like in fairyland. You're like, oh, everything's sparkling.
Yeah, I used to torment my driver when he was with those, and always he hated driving under NVGs, and would just we'd be randomly going. I'd be like, "Watch out!" And he would literally, he'd stop the Humvee and be like, "I don't find that funny." I'm like, "Dude, we're in the middle of a fucking desert. There's nobody around us. I don't know why you keep falling for it." But yeah, if you've never, driving them,
you can't
I've always been shocked as the people that flew in them. Like when people like pilots,
oh yeah,
I was like, "Holy Christ!" There's no way you can barely see while you're driving, let alone fly around.
No, they had the VCR deck on their head, like the big.
Yeah, but it's just, they're so. It's nothing like the movies you see. I always think with MBG, I always tell people like you see that on the TV, like you watch like SEAL Team, and it's like the nicest. It's so easy to see everything. I'm like that's not really. Although the technology has gotten crazy better since I got out, but still not like they portray it.
It's not the standard end user's experience, right? Special operations, yes. We're talking white Foss dual tubes up to quad tubes like GPNVGs and all that. but like the average infantryman or like soldier period.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than nothing, though, right? I mean,
It's way better. And
sometimes
some night vision's better than no night vision.
Sometimes it was, but that's true. But so, what was worse to you, Irwin, or what would I always say that Polk was worse than Irwin in my experience?
Well, I wasn't stationed at Fort Irwin.
Yeah, but you were there. You got a touch of it, though. I mean, you got a touch of it.
If I would have been stationed there, I don't know, man. It's in the middle of nothing.
Yeah, it's
like Fort Polk's like, you got like Alexandria, 45 minutes north, Lake Charles, about an hour and some change south. New Orleans, I think, is like 3 hours, which I never went there until like actually a couple years ago. That place is like Baghdad. Don't go. But you got like kind of surrounded by like some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Fort Irwin, man. You got
Bardstown's close.
It's like Wile E. Coyote country, man. The only thing that's going to happen is an anvil is going to drop out of the sky, and you're going to realize you're on an X.
Yeah, one of my our company commanders when I was there, we just finished rotation. He was actually got assigned to be a OC out there, and his wife had flown in the night before, and they drove in, from into Vegas and drove her in there, and apparently she woke up was not very happy about Fort Irwin, and like most people when you could see what was there. But as far as at the time though, those were great assignments. If you were the opposing force, you got to train a lot. You got to get a lot of experience, and those jobs were, those were tough jobs to get. And actually, they still are now to get those because you have
their career path.
Yeah.
Jobs, right? So it's like either drill sergeant, recruit, like they're called temporary duty assignments or special duty assignments, right? Recruiting, drill, OC. Those are the top three.
Yeah.
Anything underneath that, it's like don't even bother trying to get promoted.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a good time. I mean, I've always I got to go. As we lived in the story, I got to go we went to JRTC, and while we were there, that's when we were told we were going to be the next rotation of the 82nd to go to Afghanistan, and then so we were pumped and excited about it. And it was like that,
so you got like
we're going to war.
Graduation present.
Yeah, I mean, it was exciting. I mean, we're going to war. It's going to be great. And then we got back to brag. Or was it Liberty now? Is that what we're supposed to call it? Fort Liberty? I don't know.
Yeah, they all got changed, right?
I think it's Fort. I'm calling it brag though. I just keep making that joke. I think it's one of the most ridiculous things we've done in my lifetime. But we got back and we found out we got bumped by another brigade. And after the initial thing of that happening, we're told, oh, by the way, we have to take their JRTC rotations. I think I was back at JRTC within like less than 45 days from leaving. And I was telling somebody like the OCs, when you meet them again, they were like, we're gonna take it easy. This isn't gonna be like the last rotation. I'm like, it can't be because someone's apt to really get killed out here because the morale was low. You go back there, but it was. I mean, that was also the time when JRTC changed. Like those training centers changed because the war changed, right? Yeah. So it was kind of interesting. We were like that rotation went back. That second rotation was the first rotation they did where they kind of changed the whole ball game of how we were fighting. You know what I mean? It was pretty exciting.
I think it went more from like your more unconventional jungle warfare, like that Vietnam era like setup to, well, now it's asymmetric warfare, right? Yeah. And it's coming from all directions and you never know. And now you got these subtasks and you got to do tactical site exploitation and all these other things. And it's like, made you think.
Yeah. I mean, I was thankful for it because you get another chance again to like, hone your skills and be ready to go and get that different, aspect, like what we were really going to be walking into where going village to village, like, things that we had never planned on doing before instead of just a good old,
like cultural
fighting. Yeah, exactly.
Players,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it was quick to see how, it was neat to see how quick it changed from, I was a 94 guy, when I got in the Army. So, we were, at JRTC. I mean, I went to JRTC, I think 3 times. I can't remember I forgot how many times I went to Irwin, but that same fight, it just the same fight every single time you went. And it was just, you still, feel like you're going to fight the Russians on, big, tank battle. And
they used to have red air, right? Like back in Irwin and stuff, like a helicopter flying around like a giant mosquito.
That's so cool. But I mean, that was all good. I mean, it was all great opportunities, but not places I'd ever want to live.
Oh, no.
Lucky for you, so
no,
you were one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
So you come back from Iraq, your first deployment as a infantryman.
Yeah.
You what was that deployment like? It was pretty quick deployment. How long were you guys over there?
No, we were there for 17 months. We kept getting extended because, like I said, we were the only unit that had organic Humvees. So they kind of like started using us to be like a mobile quick reaction force. And then we settled off in Najaf, which was like the Army's kind of version of Fallujah. We surrounded 2 sister cities, and then we sent it. I'd say like most of the deployment was pretty good. Not like a lot of craziness was happening, but it was kind of different too. It was a different time in Iraq, right? Like we got there, the regime had been taken out of place, dismantled, and it kind of went into hiding, and so went the hunt for like the deck of cards guys, right? And so while doing that, like there was a huge emphasis placed on like running security missions for like dignitaries and stuff like that, like making sure they got from point A to point B, like food, funds, pallets of money, gold, etc. were like being found. So that stuff was getting pumped up to the capital, redistributed to like go back out and pay for like informants, families, land, you name it, right? Inject that cash back into the economy. It was just a different time. I think Iraq was really trying to figure out like what it was going to be, and we were really trying to figure out like, hey, are we police officers here, or are we door kickers like hunting down like terrorists? But April of 2004, everything changed. Like the sky caught on fire, and it was like for the next 120 days, it was almost like a gunfight every single day. So I say Iraq was funny. We'll come back, but when I got the drum, we went to Afghanistan. When we were in Afghanistan, we got told that we were going to be going to Iraq next, and I was like terrified. Iraq was terrifying. I was a turret gunner, so it didn't matter what happened. I was in that turret, and I was going to be up there by myself. If everybody dismounted and like started going after like a target, I was going to be in that turret, laying down, covering fire, or whatever I needed to be doing, being the good security. It gets lonely real quick. And like, you find out like, I ended up being up in a turret for like 2 hours under like severe, like we had so much contact going on. We hit a hornet's nest, and it was not cool. It was not cool. It was cool that we got out of it, but none of that 2 hours was cool. So I kind of like say like Iraq is its own animal, right? There's so much going on. Like when you're going down streets and like one side of the street is like busy and kids are playing, and you're like, oh, okay, everybody's having a good time. And then you look left and it's like, there's nobody there. You're like, God, before you can say contact, it's happening. It's definitely a fast paced environment like Iraq. It is so fast. It happens so rapidly. It's just its own animal. It felt like we were there for 17 months, and it felt like it did not feel like 17 months. It felt like that. It was just fast and furious. So
luckily, your unit pretty trained up. Like you said, you guys kind of had a chance to mesh with the unit, hone your skills. Could you have imagined how different that would have been if it would have been like first few months of, you getting to that unit and deploying? How much do you think that training you got before?
It's kind of funny. I think a lot, man. Obviously, the more time and the more reps that you can get in, like with the people around you, I don't care what you do. Like the more successful you're going to be, the more chemistry you'll have, the more like, hey, I know if I press this guy a little hard, he's going to react quickly and violently versus, hey, if I just kind of pat him a little bit, he's not going to really know if I just bumped into him or if I'm sending him, right? Like these fine, like little nuanced things that you can't get if you don't build, develop, and that team, right? That teamwork through reps. We ended up getting issued like up armor Humvees, like right around May of 2004, right? So after like everything's kicking off hardcore. And we also got 2 new dudes in too. One of our dudes got shot and like whatever else. The dude, I'm not going to say his name, but like we got this dude and he was like super stoked and stuff, but he was like nervous, right? Because it's like we got mortared or rocketed. Every single night and every single morning, like clockwork. People died almost every day. and because we had this El Salvadorian like special forces unit with us, and their camp, man, just got rocked. They took the brunt of it all. Well, we ended up losing a guy unexpectedly, and he was a cool dude. Everybody liked this guy, man. I mean, like, it just seemed like he was like everybody's best friend in the whole unit. And like when he died, man, it was like a vacuum of agony. Right after that, we got some replacements and the up armored Humvees. And guys were thinking, oh man, we got these up armored Humvees. Pfft, we're good now, right? We don't have to hug wheel wells and engine blocks. Well, this dude, we're doing a probing mission, essentially like a reconnaissance mission for a setup for a follow-on mission, like in a couple of days, where we're going to take down this militant stronghold that's been doing nothing but sending pain our way. So we go to do the recon of it, and we're driving by, and it looks like a fortress, man. I mean, gun ports everywhere. It's medieval looking, and it's circular. So you almost have to war wagon it, right? Super fast. You got to boomerang it. We didn't even get close to it before all hell broke loose. And our platoon sergeant was like, hey, you know what? We're going to create like a base of fire. We're going to create a wall right here. We're going to use the riverbank as like an L, and we're just going to seal them off, and we're just going to kill them right now. We're not going to retreat. We're not going back, and we're not pressing. We're just going to get them all right now. Well, that was all good and well until like overwhelming forces like come at you.
It's always a good plan until
it briefs well
until the plan doesn't work.
That whole infantry thing, right? Follow me. Yeah. And into what?
I'm just gonna stay right here. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. But like I said, I was a turret gunner, right? So I'm up in a turret. We have the soft skin command Humvee, and laying down suppressive fire, like picking out targets and being pretty deliberate. And then I like look to my left, and I'm like, well, that's weird. The new guy and a couple other dudes are behind the up armored Humvee. And then I see that kid's face just pop open and be like, like gasping. And I was like, oh no, right? Like he took a side shot because he was bladed. And I was like, ooh, but it's an up armored Humvee. Should be good. Holes all over that on both sides, man. They were using API rounds. The other team was. They were not following the rules, right? No API rounds allowed on the battlefield. Well, they were using them. And so we realized real quick, like that dude, that shook that dude. That dude was done. Like pretty hard to recover from looking at a Humvee and then seeing your body outline and bullets and realizing that just one bullet could have made the difference there. So getting back to the reason I said we'll get back to that is had he been there for all those reps, man, and got all that training in and really trusted the dudes around him in the process, because you got to be a true believer if you're going to be a warfighter. You can't be kind of half-cocked and be like, well, it sounded like a good idea, and you get a blue cord out of it, and people respect you. That's not going to get it done. Like, that. Right. You got to believe in it. You got to be willing to like go full tilt and give it everything that you have, because the other team, they're going to. And if you don't, you're probably going to die or get somebody killed around you, right? So I think those moments are like really like key pivotal moments for like some of these individuals where they had to make a decision in the moment, and they made it. They're like, nope, not for me. I'm not coming out from behind this Humvee. I'm going to hug this wheel. I'm not dying.
Yeah.
It's not that they're cowards. They're not built for it, man. And they wouldn't accept it.
Yeah. So you guys are pretty lucky. I mean, you lost one person during the deployment in 17 months, or
yeah.
We lost only one, but
we lost a few guys. But we ended up sending one of our mortars out to one of the scout platoons. He got shot, and then one of the other guys, he actually got killed. Then we had 3 enablers with us get killed, and then we had like a couple of the El Salvadorian dudes get clipped too. Whole lot of injuries, a whole lot of Purple Hearts getting handed out, but yeah, pretty lucky in the grand scheme of things for the volume of fire and the amount of hate that we received for the amount of time we were receiving it. Like, I feel like we were pretty lucky.
So you come back from your first deployment, first couple of years in the military, you kind of got all the things an infantryman wants to get, right? You got your CIB now, you've been in combat, you've tested yourself,
Yeah.
right? And then you come back, and what's it like coming back to the wife who's just had moved down there? Michelle just moved down there. You left her there. What was that first reconnection like?
It was awesome. Like, we've been together since high school, right? She knows me better than anybody still to this day. I hate it when she calls me out, but like, she knows me. So it was awesome, man. It was also hard because I wanted to talk to her about things to get it off my chest. But what I found myself doing is being like, I'm good. And I'd have tears coming down my eyes, talking like just like this, like, hey, yeah, I'll have lasagna for dinner too. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Tears are coming down my face. And she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. She's like, you're not good. Look at your face. Right. So I did what every good infantryman does, right? I found a bottle and I dove head first into it. Right. I started drinking like in the morning before PT, during lunch, after I got off. I was still performing to a degree, but that kind of wore off, right? Like a few months later, we found out we were pregnant, and the first like ultrasound, like I had been drinking, right? And I'm in the doctor's office, and it's my daughter. She's 18 now. But the first ultrasound, like she turned in the belly, like when I was talking, and the nurse was like, hey, Dad, keep talking. And I kept talking, and she turned back over and she was like cooing. She was like, you could see her opening her mouth. Dude, I went home after that appointment. I dumped out all the alcohol. I didn't drink again for like a few years, man. Like, and in that time, I deep dove like the finer things, man. Like, we lost dudes doing stuff, man, and it really bothered me, man. It really like made me obsess over like things that some dudes just don't even think about. So I poured everything into training. And I ended up getting not restationed, but I ended up getting stationed at Fort Drum, New York, from the 10th Mountain Division. And it was a whole nother animal up there, right? These guys
another not great post, by the way. I mean,
dude, that was an awesome post.
I make a joke about Drum.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, what is that, like Jon Snow's world, man? Like, it's just always cold outside. But one of the best units I've ever even heard of, man. Like, it was an amazing opportunity. I had a lot of good times up there. But yeah, coming home sucked, man. It was like an emotional gauntlet. Don't want to offload everything on your wife and bring her down. Now she's pregnant. So
back to the drinking. Did anybody have a clue?
Yeah, nobody called it out. If you're performing, like, I was in special operations, but I mean, like, I was getting 300 pluses on APFTs. Nothing was suffering. Right. Everybody thought, well, whatever, man. As long as they show up, do their job, have a good attitude, they're good to go. False.
Yeah.
They're not good to go, but you're going to suffer in silence, and you're going to just keep one foot in front of the other, right? Because now you have people counting on you. You have a wife. Now you have a kid coming.
Right.
There's no options. So.
And also, you're talking about the time frame. This is 2003, right?
2004.
That's okay. So that time frame. So we talk about this with other guests. Is the mental health situation in the military was a lot different than it is now. It wasn't cool to be coming back talking about what didn't go well or talk about your feelings. It just wasn't accepted. So a lot of people, like you said, took to the bottle or did other kind of stuff, or just went to a really dark place. And I'm glad that has changed, as we're out of the war, but toward the end, when you start talking about how the command was, it needs to be better, obviously, because people are still struggling. But back in that time frame, that wasn't even discussed. Like I was still in at that time, and you weren't. If anybody asked you how did Iraq or Afghanistan go, it was like, oh, it's great. You didn't get to go, and that person didn't go. There was never any negative part about it. Or if you were, like you said, scared to go back, you weren't telling anybody that. You're like, I can't wait to go back. It was a hard mindset for a lot of people. And I only say it because I don't think people understand. some people understand. Not everyone understands that pressure when you come back. What you've seen, what you've done, what you've been a part of, and that pressure that's on you, and you really can't talk to anybody about it. You can't even talk to other soldiers really about it.
It's funny, right? Because like one of the questions on the questionnaire, like the post-deployment questionnaire, like for the psych review, has stayed pretty constant, like over time, like from first deployment to my exit. And it was, have you seen anybody killed? Have you killed anybody? Have you like had nightmares, seen anything horrific, all these things? And I think after my second or third deployment, I can't remember, I actually had to sit down, and I didn't remember, this is in 09. I didn't even remember this, but I guess I had to sit down with a counselor because like I had too many red flags. I flagged on the questionnaire because I was like, yes. Right. And I was like, unlimited. And instead of answering no, I was like honest for once. I was like, yeah, we had a lot of work. We did this deployment. And so he was like, how do you feel about killing people? I was like, I feel pretty good. I mean, I like, not like in an arrogant way, but I was just like, I feel fine. It doesn't bother me. They're like, what bothers you? I was like, watching my buddies die. That's what bothered me. And that was the wrong answer, man. Like you're supposed to have some sort of like emotional reaction to taking lives. But like once you get to a certain point in this thing, like we're not talking 1 or 2 dudes, like, but when you get to a point where you've been doing the same kind of work pretty consistently, it stops affecting you too. Well, it does affect you, but like the problems that you end up having are like these deeper problems that you don't even realize cats around you are having too. And like, to your point, you can't just be like, hey, Johnny, I either had a heart attack or I had a panic attack last night, man. Like, you dealing with any of this stuff? Can you sleep? Like, does your nose
Were you the only one?
Yeah.
Just drank a bottle.
Yeah. Like, is your nose bleeding?
I don't mean to laugh at it, but there's like, a conversation that, you're not going to have like, did you drink a bottle of whiskey like I did last night too?
Yeah.
I mean,
like
no, it's
all these things. Hey, and make it more realistic, man. Did you pin your wife up against the wall in the middle of the night because like there was no lights on and she surprised you? Like, do you have an uncontrollable amount of rage coursing through your veins all the time and you just can't figure out why? You almost hate the one person that loves you more than everybody else combined.
Yeah.
You can't have that. You can't ask anybody that. So you end up like doing collateral damage at home and you end up becoming like this rock star at work because people are looking at you. Now you're a leader. Now you're leading.
But are you the right leader though? Are you really saying all those things you said? Are you, if you're dealing with all that stuff, are you really leading?
I feel like, it's like, I hate creeds. But like there's this part in the Infantryman's creed, right? It says, I'm what my country expects me to be, the best trained soldier in the world. It doesn't say you have to be the best man in the world. You just have to be the best trained soldier. Now you do that, your odds pretty much like multiply that you're going to like come back home. But what do you come at? Like my wife, if like when, you've met her, she's like a rock of a human. She is tough as nails. And I made her that way, right? Like that's me, but that's also kind of her having to live through a cycle of like looking like, cause you live in stacks of 4 on base. And it's like watching, chaplains and dressed blues, like knock on doors around you. And it's like big breath hold to be like, is this how I'm going to find out? It's crazy. Modern days, we still do it like that, but, no, you're not the better man.
Yeah.
You're just a warrior. You're a war fighter.
So when did you you obviously were struggling from, really fast. You struggling from your first deployment, kind of kept it quiet, went to drum. Just from the story, you deployed a couple of times with a drum, right? Mm-hmm. To Afghanistan. Yeah. So when did you start being able to express the feelings that you're expressing tonight, or when did you start talking to your wife or somebody else? When did that light go on that you needed to talk to people?
Outside of 2 times when I had too much to drink, I never talked to my wife about anything. my best friend, we went to go visit him and his wife. We're really tight with this one family that we were with for a lot of years at Drum. And he's like a larger than life dude, man. He is everybody's big brother, like, and everybody loves him. And he had kind of told my wife one night, we're sitting there drinking, you know, some stuff that had happened over there and about how he wouldn't be there, you know, to tell her about stuff and all this. What I'm like the kind of guy that was always like, hey, I did my job just like everybody else around me did. Like, so like we could go around and pat each other on the back all we want for stuff. But I mean, like, you know, I tried not to take it too seriously. But that was like when my wife's eyes kind of popped, you know, and her thinking kind of changed because she was like, wait a minute, like, you saved his life. This is what he's saying happened. I've never heard any of this. I think it was kind of like the beginning of like the inevitable end, man, of like ignorance. Like, my wife was like, now she's starting to listen to stories. Now people are starting to talk a little bit more, but I'm like tight, you know, with it. So she's like, are you reckless over there with your life? Or are you just like, and I'm like, man, I'm just doing my job, man. I'm just doing the job that I was tasked to do, right? Like, we have to fire and maneuver. We got to kill people so that we can stay alive, so that we can protect, be the shield, whatever you want to put on it. These are evil freaking humans, and we're going to go hunt them and we're going to kill them. And we're going to lose some people in the process of that. And it might be me. But until it is, I'm going to give this job everything I have, because it's that important, because it's not about the flag on your shoulder. It's not about career progression. It's about the dudes to the left and right of you, you know? But she started asking questions, and she stopped taking everything like I'm okay for like a legitimate answer. She'd be like, dive deeper on that. What does that mean? Like I said, in 2009, I actually ended up sitting down with a counselor, and I didn't even remember it. Like, I had such bad TBI, man, from getting rocked nonstop with like explosions, overpressure, freaking, you name it, man. We'll get into it more, but I guess like I kind of like started peeling back layers of the onion. I was like, I can't sleep. I'm taking Tremadol, freaking naproxen, healthy handfuls of milk thistle, taking Ambien and Benadryl to calm me down and put me to sleep. Like, I'm like a functional drug addict, you know, and it's like, and that's just to survive, right? I don't want to feel the pain. I can't go to sleep, so I got to take something to go to sleep. I can't wake up, so I got to take something to wake up. Everything hurts. What are you supposed to do? Ask for help? Right? Like,
I mean, the right answer is yes.
The right answer is
exactly.
yes,
I mean,
but nobody else is doing it.
No, and I mean, that's one of the things it's why I start. You asked me before why, what made me, start doing the podcast in the first place, and that was the reason why, is to tell a story, to tell people that it is okay, because still there's a lot of people today that will still, people that you serve with and I serve with will still pretend like they still say everything's fine, like they'll say I'm doing great, I'm okay. And you come to find out they are the person that's, like all the things you've said and many things we talked about before, they're not okay. It is okay. You are supposed to tell people, maybe I need a break. I need to get off the merry-go-round for a little bit.
Yeah. It's okay to not be okay.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's anything. That's not just in the, your career. That's any career you're on. I think one of the, it is okay to tell people you're not okay.
Yeah.
And that you need help. And that's a hard thing to do. And it's even harder, I think, in the military for us to tell people that we're in the military, because it's just not a culture where you want to tell people that you're not doing well. Right. And that needs to change. That needs to change. If you're on active duty still and you're not doing well, you need to say something. You need to talk to leaders, because there's leaders like you that are still out there that have experienced it.
Combat readiness, right? Yeah. So like the way I always kind of look at it, hindsight looking back, is what's better? To have dudes that are like sucking it up and driving on, and they're like slowly, like they're fractured, right? And we know what happens when you're fractured, right? It's inevitable. You're gonna break. Or is it better to like increase your life cycle by getting these war fighters, like the counseling, the help that they might need, the surgeries, the rehab, whatever you want to call it, an actual reset period. We don't treat like the end user as like a piece of equipment. A piece of equipment, we have like a mechanical reset, right?
Right,
so like
exactly.
we're going to put it through services. We're going to do all these things, switch out some parts.
Yeah, this needs a new barrel. That needs a new strap.
Dude,
that needs a new. Yeah,
we're going to take care of our equipment, but we don't treat like the end user as a piece of equipment, and we should, right? We should be PMCS'd, right? Like we should literally be stripped down, rebuilt back up. And so who do you want? Do you want a dude that's fractured and on like a countdown, like a timer, or do you want somebody that's been rebuilt and repurposed, repurposed? I'd take the rebuilt, repurposed dude all day.
I think everybody would, but I think, as we all know, the op tempo for 20 years was, 2 wars were going on. And I still think that's something that should be happening now, because I think most veterans are fractured no matter what. That process you're talking about never happened. So a lot of us just get out and we're put back in the world, and we none of those things were addressed.
Yep.
The physical thing, I'll give the military or the VA, they do take care of. Physically, that's gotten better over the years. You can go get, taken care of, but the mental part of it, I still think is there's leaps and bounds that need to be done. But it does need to start from, if it would have been different in 2004, that first time you came back, I came back in 2003. That time, if that would have been there, those checks and balances, like you said, to find out what's good and bad, and like you said, PMCS, everybody, that next one wouldn't have been as drastic, but it just kept, compounding, as well,
it's crazy too. Like the wife culture, like you talk about, like the other side of the house, right? My wife was told very directly in an FRG meeting before we came home, hey, if your husbands are angry or whatever, don't worry about it. Like it almost promoted this culture of, hey, they're going to act in a way that isn't acceptable.
But you have to deal with it.
But you need to deal with it, because if you don't, and you call the MPs and they get arrested, that's their career. So, man, and like, I think about this, and I did for like the last like 5 or 6 years, like I've thought more and more about this part, but like, me and my wife got into like a pretty robust conversation one night, and it was like about past stuff. Kitchen sinks are stupid. But, it kind of led down that like rabbit hole of like the past and what could have and should have and would have happened. And I was like, man, you should have called the cops on me. Like if I had it to do all over again, I wish. Like I never beat my wife. I'm not saying that, but I mean, like, you don't have to beat your wife to have a negative impact on her. My wife isn't afraid of anything breathing, but I mean, like, you can tell, man, when your wife no longer looks at you as the protector and she looks at you as more of like, that's an obstacle, right?
Or a threat, which is even worse.
Maybe, I think she knew that I would never hurt her, but like, not physically anyways, but like, dude, I was like, I was a pretty toxic human being, man, for like a good decade.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Let's, how about we do this? We'll pause there. We'll go into the moonshine you brought.
Yeah.
You brought some unique things. So we got our first recruiter, which we're going to get into, because we've been bashing recruiters for like 39 episodes. So we're looking forward to that, but we'll pick up from there. But we have it's the first new drink we've had on there. And if you haven't noticed, I'm not drinking on the air tonight, because I'm getting ready to go to Save a Warrior next weekend. So I'm dry right now. So I won't be partaking it, but I still figure we'd go over there. The audience will love to try this, but this is the first time we've featured moonshine, right? So, moonshine, I posted a post on it, like, what is moonshine? So, moonshine is distilled everywhere, right? It's been being distilled forever. Moonshine has played an important role in American history. Moonshine wouldn't exist if it wasn't for American history. Mankind has been producing alcohol for thousands and thousands of years, but the U.S. government was one of the first major governments to actually start taxing and controlling alcohol industry.
Go figure.
Imagine that, yeah. A lot of things they tax and control, and then the moment the government started taxing and controlling alcohols, is the moment that moonshine began. The term moonshine comes from the fact that illegal spirits were made under the light of the moon, In every part of America, early moonshiners worked their stills at the night to avoid detection from authorities. In the early frontier days of American history, moonshine wasn't just a hobby; it was also a part-time job. You had many farmers that, their grain was getting ready, if they had a bad year or the grain was getting ready to go bad, what did they do with it? They turned it into alcohol and sold it. And that happened for a long time, and I think it still happens in some places.
Oh, sure.
This is actually homemade moonshine. Which I have to pour some off so I can have it when I get back next week to try it, because I'm a fan of all the homemade.
Oh no,
moonshine.
that's for you.
That's even better. Huh?
Yeah,
it's a good trip to come back.
I might have more. Yeah,
and it's great. Like if you've never got homemade moonshine, it's always it's the best when it's always like, it's kind of a fancy glass, so it's got but it's always great when it's in there. Yeah, you get those. But in 1920, when prohibitions happened, moonshine got really popular. The moonshiners were like, look at us now, we're the only people that are producing alcohol. So they hated the good times for moonshine. And then obviously that bill was repealed and we started drinking again. And today moonshine is looked at a lot differently. I mean, it is illegal to do it. I don't know many places that are really going after. I haven't heard of anybody getting busted with a still.
I didn't make it.
No. Especially what he's running for. But it has changed. Where like if you went back in the day, this was like nobody's looking for moonshiners. And then actually, I think New Zealand is the first country right now, major country, that now allows for home distillation for personal consumption, but not for sale though. So it was fun putting this up there. I don't know how old this moonshine is. I don't know the proof. Don't know the mash bill, but I'm sure it's and what we talk about, the final thing about moonshine, this is flavored, so people flavor them different ways. So I'll pass around to these guys. You can pass around to those guys. I'm sure they're trying. Make sure my dad tries it. See, look on his face. So
yeah,
Thank you.
I did not make it. It wasn't me.
But we had Garrett Sons, right? That's what homemade apple pie moonshine. But yeah, if you haven't had that's always fun to do. I had some lemon one that was in the refrigerator upstairs. My wife threw it away. It was like I just have it every once in a while, and one day it was gone. She's like, I didn't know that was any good. I'm like, it was some of the best lemon moonshine.
Don't touch things that don't belong to you, right?
No. Don't touch the
if it's
moonshine.
liquid and it's in a can or a jar.
She's like, I thought you only drink the brown liquor. No, it's fine. But so we stopped at what you were talking about with your wife and those relationships with many service members. But I think what you said and why I wanted to stop there was interesting because you talked about something like it was hard to talk to. It still is hard for some people to talk to other people about what they're struggling with. You brought up a good point when you said that is, if you can't do it for yourself, you do need to do it for your spouse. You do need to do it for your children, because if you are that person, which, unfortunately I've been that person as well. Right. And I'm not perfect at it. And I still am sometimes. You need to get better. You need to find, how to get better, because they're the people that are suffering even more than you are.
Oh, for sure. There's a good movie like We Were Soldiers. Yep. And in that movie, there's like this really good part where one of the lieutenants is asking Mel Gibson or Colonel Moore, right? Like how he manages being a father and a leader. And like, do you remember that part?
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah, it's
watching this movie, it like literally changed my life. Hearing these next words, which was, I like to believe that being good at one, it makes me better at the other. And that just kind of, it shifted something in I'm not saying like I turned the page, right, overnight. It was a process. But it was kind of like a light bulb went off, and I realized, I was like, wait a minute, man, I got soldiers underneath me that are going off. They're going to go on this deployment. We're going to see some stuff, right? We know this. I started feeling that responsibility to be like, hey, look, we're probably going to see some stuff and it's really going to freak you out. All right. But like, we've trained really hard and like instill that sense of confidence in these guys. Like, hey, no matter what you see over there, we're going to be good until we're not, but when we come home, that's when the work's going to begin. Like, cause you got to deal with it or else, so I felt like it made me a better leader. I like having a wife that was constantly like pushing. She was pushing back. She was like, you're not okay. You're not okay. You're not. And I'm like, I'm freaking fine. but I'm not. And she knew it. And instead of hating me, she loved me through it, man. Kind of like God, right? He loves us so much, man. And even though we act like bad kids all the time, and we do, like he's grace, right? My wife, if nothing else, man, is a graceful woman. Yeah. She probably saved my life more times than my battle buddies did.
You tell her that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
She knows. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, she's a rock star.
That's good. So, like, you brought on being a leader. So your second deployments and third deployment. You're now what rank were you then?
Second deployment, I was a Sergeant E5.
Okay.
And like in the 11 Charlie world, right? Like you have your own squad. You're a squad leader. Whereas in the rifle infantry, like you're a team leader. So you get a little bit more responsibility. And whatnot. Third deployment, I was a staff sergeant by then. That was like my second tour to Afghanistan. Got wounded my first tour to Afghanistan. Nothing big. There were dudes like, I always like, always kind of thought like it's crazy. Like we only lost 3 people at deployment. I say only. We lost 3 rock star human beings at deployment. But I think the battalion was somewhere in the 60 percentile for Purple Hearts. We were getting freaking clipped left and right. We had one guy, I think he got 3 Purple Hearts in one day. True story. Woke up, we were getting hit with indirect, took a piece of shrapnel, I think, to the back of the head. Or no, to his arm or something like that. Went to the medic, they dug it out. No big deal, patched him up, he's good. Then we went out on patrol. On our way back in, an IED blew, detonated right as we were coming through it. Piece of shrapnel hit him in the back of the head. We went back out. He got it dug out of his head real quick, patched up, and they were like, hey, we got a follow-on mission. So we went right back out the gate, and he got hit again. 3 Purple Hearts one day. Crazy.
Not your average.
That is not your average thing. But my point is, right, like,
yeah,
our battalion commander got a Purple Heart. Like, they were battlefield circulating command teams. But the next deployment.
So how were you wounded then? I had that as a question.
Shrapnel.
Yep.
Yeah, nothing big. Yeah.
Nothing big. Just
nothing big. Just a little bit of shrapnel.
Indirect fire from those enemy Charlies that
They would put those daggone rockets up on those rocks and just send it. Pretty accurate too. But
if you got to have to give them credit for trying though. They were doing. I mean, they were very inaccurate, but they were just they were resilient, right?
The ingenuity,
yeah,
like very simple, right? There's a rocket, it's an explosive, right? Put it on a rock and send it.
Yep.
And just keep doing that.
Yep. Yep.
Figuring out how many rocks you got to put under it before it gets to where you want it to go.
Yeah, because that's when I was up there, that's the thing is you start thinking how out of the box they're fighting. It was always a weird concept. Like there was nothing that you'd been trained in your mind, that how you're supposed to do things, and they weren't doing that. And it was kind of a little bit of that
unconventional warfare.
Yeah, and there's a mad respect for it, but the other thing, there's a huge fear because it's something you're not. It was effective. I think the fear part of it was effective. The IEDs was, that used to scare the ever-loving shit out of me. Just because of how, everything could be going fine, and it may not even be meant for you, and it can happen.
You got to think too, man. Our nation has been built on like fighting wars where there's like a uniformed opposition, as opposed to like what kind of started happening from Vietnam forward, which was like regular infantrymen and warfighters were having to fight the special operations fight, because now you don't know who your enemy is until they reveal themselves to you. So it's just different.
So you come back from that. You come back E6. You've how many? That
3
total
deployments,
3 deployments. Yeah. 50 months total. About.
Oh no, we're not there yet.
Not yet there yet.
No. Well, no. Yeah, we're about like 42 months.
Yeah, So I mean, put that in perspective. That close to 4 years. That's a long time to be doing that. So you kind of get off the roller coaster at that point, right?
Yeah. So
Get a little bit of a break.
the Army was hard transitioning people out. The suicide rate was like so high. They were like, "Hey, look, we're gonna make it mandatory for cats to go do like special duty assignments or temporary duty assignments. But either way, they're getting a break with some sort of a break." I ended up the only reenlistment option I had was for Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I ended up being part of one of the basic combat training battalions, working in one of the S shops, S3 shop, which was really cool because I got to kind of like, take all of my experience that I had fighting wars and plug it into kids that are probably never gonna go to war. I mean, they're gonna go overseas, but like they're probably not gonna have to fight because they're not infantry, right? They're soft MOSs. So like all your support and sustainment type people. But I always kind of looked at them like, hey, you should be an enabler. Like we would take cooks out with us to go fight. Like our cooks were warriors. So it was really good being able to kind of like pour that out to cats that might be able to use it. I ended up kind of helping rewrite the end of cycle FTX, the tactical side for TRADOC.
Yeah, you terrorized those poor cooks and stuff.
Man.
They're like, I just want to make pancakes. No, I'm joking.
No, they ate it up, man.
No, I know they do. Yeah,
they ate it up because they didn't know no better. They didn't know any better.
Yeah.
But the bad part is that I started falling apart pretty quickly, man. I mean, like when an object is like a speeding bullet train and the brakes just don't get applied, it shuts that thing down on the spot. Like all this stuff from the back cabin starts making its way to the front. I've never stuttered in my life. And I started stuttering. I mean, seriously stuttering. I couldn't put together a sentence sometimes. There was one time I was at my desk and my section sergeant or whatever, the S3 actual was like, "Hey, Sergeant Jarvis." And I was like, "What's up?" He's like, "Look down." I was like, "No, I'm not playing this game." It's probably like somebody holding like their finger out like this, like, "Look in the circle."
That's such a great game, though. Isn't it?
Yeah. It's
been going on for years.
But I was like, "I don't want to get hit." I was like, "I'm not looking down." He's like, No, really look down. And I was like, "I'm not doing it." He's like, "Look down." I was like, I looked down, blood all down my, I'm dripping out like a faucet out of my nose. There's blood splatter like on the wall from when he called my name and I whipped my head to the left. It's like, so like I started having like neurological issues. I had like some physiological issues, like all this stuff like was catching up to me, man. And I was starting to get scared, man, because now my wife is no longer in the everything's okay if you say so. She's like, "No, everything's not okay. It's not been okay for a long time." Oh, by the way, this argument we're having right now over who said what, like last week, you didn't even say that. You didn't even hear me, obviously. You were on another planet, right? Like, so now like I'm being told I'm crazy. I don't remember anything. I'm bleeding randomly and I can't explain it. And I'm stuttering. And I feel like I'm having anxiety attacks all the time. I feel like I'm having heart attacks, like legit heart attacks. I'm not sleeping. I'm eating trash. I'm not drinking. I got 2 kids now. I'm in hell, right? And so I go to the hospital. I get checked out and all this stuff, man. They're like, "Dude, you got like MTBI." Which is like mild. And I was like, "Well, that's good. It's mild, right?" And they're like, "No, it's not good." So it's like, start like chugging pills all the time and like doing these mental teasers. And I like started kind of going crazy. So about a year into that assignment, I was like, I gotta get out. I gotta get back. I gotta get back to the fight, right? Go do my job. So that's what I did. I got on orders to go to Campbell because my little brother was there. So I jumped on the first thing smoking out of Fort Jackson, but we were there for about 2 years.
So I think people listen, or if they're not, I'm going to point out. So you had TBI, MTBI, you're on medication, you're having all these problems, and the Army says, "Okay, it's a good idea for you to go from where you're not, in the fight to go to Fort Campbell? Did you? I mean, that doesn't make much.
So the systems, the medical systems, never talked to
Right.
each other like a good machine gun team would, right? No communication. So like when you do your post-deployment surveys, where it's like, yeah, did you kill people? Did you see bad stuff happen? Blah, 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 blah. All this horrible stuff that's true if you were there and you did it. Those people, those shrinks, they never talked to MedCom, right? So when you go to the hospital, you talk about combat readiness, right? You may get flagged on the way back from a deployment. But then as long as the counselor is like, yeah, but I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be allowed to continue, then you're good to go.
Yeah.
On the flip side, if you're in the force or whatever, and you're going through like your reset cycles and stuff, and you're like, well, I had to have an ankle surgery, but that didn't I rehabbed that thing superhuman speed, right? Like I did it in 3 months instead of like 9. I just heal good for now, or back then. But that didn't slow me down. It didn't stop me from deploying. If I went to the hospital, which I don't even remember, and talking to a counselor that I don't even remember about nightmares and all this other stuff, that probably should have like pressed at the bare minimum, pressed the pause button on me and been like, maybe we need to look at this guy more. No, I was normal. I was normal because they would ask you, hey, do you feel like killing yourself? And I'd be like, no.
That was a question I was asked. Have you, up to that point, have you ever thought of at that point about that?
I didn't. I was singularly focused on the task at hand, and that was killing terrorists. It's like, hey, we got all this other job to do too, right? It's not just about taking life, but it's like, hey, how do we live as violently and as loud as possible so that like we survive? Fight, win, survive. Repeat that cycle. That's what I was focused on. So
looking back, what you know now, like we know that the military system was broke. I knew that that was going to be answered. Looking back on it now, did you need to go to Campbell? Was that a good decision for you as a person?
If I didn't go to Campbell, I would have gotten medically retired then.
I figured
probably.
I figured that, but you tried to jump ahead. You eventually did get medically retired. So was it the best decision you could have made for yourself?
See, I feel torn, man. You'd have to ask my wife, right? Like, it's a crap shoot, right? It's a meat grinder of a.
I know it's not an easy question. I'm just asking you to think it through.
The right answer, yes. I probably should have raised my hand and be like, if you guys aren't going to put me in timeout, I'm putting myself in timeout.
Would you do it differently then? Let's do it that way. It's a better question.
I think I would do. I think I know more now than I did then. And if I had the knowledge I have now and I got to take it back with me to then, I probably would do things differently, but I don't know that it would derail like me getting back into the force. Like, I think I would have just been armed with better ways of dealing with things. I think I could have helped more people around me, but it's an unnecessary evil. We need our war fighters to be committed,
right?
And unfortunately, but fortunately, like that's what our country needs. We need people to be exactly that, the best trained soldiers in the world. So
you head to Campbell.
Squawking chicken.
Go to the Screaming Eagles. To make fun of you guys, but
loved it.
And got assigned to a pretty historic brigade that's no longer around.
Yep, got the huge opportunity and honor and privilege to be part of the Currahee Brigade, 4th Brigade Combat Team. The lineage that comes from that. I mean, the expectation to perform was high at Fort Drum in the 10th Mountain. But nothing is like the expectation to perform in that brigade with that reputation.
So people that might not know, that's if you've ever seen Band of Brothers, that's the unit that they're talking about that has that lineage, a very strong lineage of anybody that's in there. That's probably the only brigade in the 101st that I don't make fun of as an 82nd guy.
Yeah,
the rest of them, whatever. But
Yeah.
no, but
yeah, no, those old timers, right? So like the OG dudes that did the D-Day jumps, like they would come back once a year for Week of the Eagle, and you would get to meet them and you would get to talk to them, and inevitably they would talk about how, you know, their time was from Toccoa up, right? Like, and it was just kind of cool. Like the motto of the Currahee was, what Currahee means is stands alone together. And it's like kind of crazy when you start dissecting that and you're like, stands alone, okay, together, what? Right? But figure Indians, right? Like you're an individual first, but you're worth nothing if you don't stand with others. So anyways, man, like it was an amazing experience. Did one more deployment with them. And then I'm still a staff sergeant, you know, trying to find my way. But something happened while I was overseas. I just got to this point, man, where it hit something inside of me, snapped, it broke. And I realized like I was smoked. I was like, man, I'm exhausted. Like I need a break. Like I just came from Fort Jackson, which was supposed to be a break. And I went back to the fight, went to Afghanistan, and I'm over there and I'm like, I need out of this. So I put in a packet to be a recruiter. I thought that would be a break. Kind of simultaneously, my grandmother had died, and my grandfather was alone, and they both lived in Florida. But you know, because he lived in Florida and he was by himself, he didn't really have a lot of people checking in on him. So I was like, well, if I can become a recruiter, I know I'll have more time than if I was a drill sergeant. And I've been told that I could pretty much get as close to him as possible. I will say this, like the one good thing I had going for me is I had a pretty good reputation. So like people usually like helped me out. They were like, oh no, this is a good dude. Like, okay, you need to get to Florida.
Other than the nosebleed thing everywhere, that's a great guy.
No, well, that's why people loved me. They're like, hey, he has.
Look at this party trick he has.
He has surgeries. He rehabs quick. The only thing I had going against me is I spoke my mind.
Right.
You know, like, so I think I flirted with the line of being, I think my command structure like promoted in a sense a little bit of, I don't want to say insubordination. I think they promoted speak your mind. Like we're men here. Like we're going to talk to each other like dudes too. Obviously there's like some respect issues that you need to have for your seniors and superiors. And I think I muddied that line often. I never got in trouble for it, but I don't think I made as many friends as I probably could have. But people knew where I stood at the end of the day. But
you see those like as an NCO, the people are familiar with them just saying this. You have some NCOs that are just like yes men and yes women. They just they don't.
No, I didn't use.
I'm not saying there's
tact.
No, but there's some. But there are. There's the people that they sometimes get you to speak your opinion. They just don't. They're not. They just they stay in their lane. They don't do that. They don't challenge it. There's those people. There's people that are usually like you said that speak their mind. And then they know when to shut up. You know what I mean? And then there's some people that
don't know when to shut up.
And don't know when to shut up, but they don't. They don't necessarily. They got to get told to shut up. Right? It's a good way to put it. And then. Then obviously there are people that are just like any organization that do have, I'm not saying you're that person, but they just have the disrespect for, it doesn't matter who they are. They don't treat anybody. They don't even treat themselves with respect. So it's a different thing. So it is a different, and you look at it, that's a, I don't, all of them are different. I think it's because it kind of goes into how people are as human beings. Like I generally have to be told sometimes to shut up as well. I was that officer that, I pushed that limit and was told many times to shut up. And that's fine. And I'll shut up at that point. But
I got to work around dudes way cooler than me. And one of the things that like I learned a little later that I should have, you got to get buy-in, right? So like I would always get buy-in from my dudes, like my subordinates. I'd be like, hey, look, this is our job. We got to do this. And it's a tough nut to crack, but we got to do it. How do you guys think we should do it? Right. So I wouldn't dictate everything. I would get buy-in because we're all going to have to do this together. Right. And when I would do that, I already knew I had the best plan. So like my job as an 11 Charlie section leader was to brief the commander on like, hey, look, the commander has an intent. He wants X to happen. It's my job to facilitate that mission, right? And turn that into a success by enabling the battlefield however I can. So by the time I would get to the commander and be like, hey, look, so this is what you want to happen. This is our plan. This is our fires plan. This is how we're going to execute it. I had this one commander that was a prior NCO, and excuse me, he was the wrong dude to do that to. He was like, I don't care what your plan is. I'm telling you that you're going to do this. And I was like, you're not telling me anything. That's the wrong answer, right? You can't say that to your commander, right? Like so
you can, but it's
so you're getting into a dirt kicking contest, man, with the ump essentially, and he's going to win. Right. And I had to learn that the hard way. You know, eventually I got to the point where I got a muzzle put on me and I was told, hey, shut up, sit down, or you're going to get replaced. And that's exactly what happened. I got replaced by somebody lesser than me. And everybody knew it. And it didn't matter. The example was going to get set. You can't just resist and dictate to a commander. Like you want a commander to like buy off on your plan because you know it's the better plan to execute. Then feed him a crap sandwich that just sucks. It's like, don't even get it near me. I don't want that plan. That's going to get people killed. How are you an NCO? Those kinds of questions. Feed them that kind of a plan. And then feed them like a middle of the road plan and then feed them like your plan. And he'll be like, all right, these are my options, man. I'm taking that one. It's like, yes, because that was my plan the whole time. I didn't learn
that.
They
choose that one.
Yeah. But, you know, as I got older and more mature, you know, I started getting it a little bit more. It's like, as a leader, you're influencing people to do things they wouldn't otherwise want to do, right? So, and you do that through providing them with what? Purpose, direction, and motivation. Yeah. It's really simple formula. But it's not so simple when you know the right answer and you got somebody in front of you that's like, I don't care. I literally looked at my commander. I was like, well, if you want to get people killed, that's freaking on you, but I'm not going to be a part of it. That was the end of my career in that company.
I'm not gonna.
Well, I understand, man. Like, I like looking back. I don't blame them for getting rid of me because I was a problem. I was insubordinate at best. You know. Now I didn't suffer for that like publicly or like professionally. It just so happened that another guy got fired from another company, and they needed a replacement for him, and it was like a lateral transfer. It's like, hey, we can't keep this dude here.
We'll trade you Jarvis.
But he's a rock star. Yeah. So you guys take him. And they're like, frick yeah, we'll take him. So I got to go into a different culture, but I still talk to my old leader that kind of sent me packing. And I like, it was one of the best things he ever did for me because me and him were like, we're not me and the commander, but me and my first sergeant were really, I'd say we were really good friends. And he told me, he was like, you did this to yourself. I fricking warned you. Yeah, but he didn't kill my career, and he could have. So it was a really good deal. But I learned a lot. Yeah, man. Yeah.
So before we get into recruiting, because I don't think this is going to be your answer to the question. I hope not. But if it is, we're going to make fun even more. So you head into recruiting, and that's where you kind of winded your career down. But the jobs you had as an NCO and leader, what was your favorite job? Like team leader, squad leader, platoon sergeant. What looking back, where do you think what was your favorite, or where do you think you made the biggest impact?
As a platoon sergeant, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we've asked officers. I think that's the coolest job. Like platoon leader, and this is the coolest job. I mean, that's hands down.
You have all the responsibility.
At the time, you don't think about it though, because at the time it's a royal pain in the ass, right? It really is. It really is. But when you look back, you're like, man, you were with your people all the time. You were training. You were like, you knew everybody. You were just doing your job, and like I think that's the best job. So I was hoping you were going to say like being a recruiter, because I was like, oh shit, then we're going to really make fun of you. But, so you head to Florida, become a recruiter.
Yep.
And we've heard some horrible things about recruiters. You know, like the Army. We've heard a lot of people went in the Marine Corps because the Army recruiters weren't in their office. Is what a couple guys said.
That was not our station. So I went down there again. Like I said, my primary motivation was to get my grandfather pushed to me. So he lived in the Pensacola area, and I got close, but not that close. I got put in Tampa Battalion. I ended up being about an hour and some change south of Tampa. So I was in Southwest Florida, a town called Port Charlotte. And we had just gotten down there. It was like October. We signed in, checked in and everything. I had everything set to get my grandpa moved to a facility closer to us. And then I was just going to have him pushed into the house and have like nurses like take care, like come by like once a day or whatever. And we were going to be there, so it didn't matter. And then he died, you know. My grandfather, an amazing, like my experience with him was amazing. So losing my grandmother, and she was the best woman I've ever known in my life, was hard enough. And that was a year before this. And then my grandfather dies right as we're about to get him. Right. I mean, I got to be up there for him, you know, as he died and whatnot, which was an honor and also sucked. But like, I mean, he kicked everybody out of the room. It was like, I just want my grandson in here. And I was like, crap, this is happening, whether I want it to or not. You know, my whole world fell apart right after that. Every idea I had about what I was going to do no longer existed. I had no mission. I had no direction. I had no, for the first time in my life, man, all the dudes I like, you watch die, like the one that like breaks through, or the people you kill, the relationships that you build, and then you have to say goodbye to, you never see them again, you know, because life and deployment cycles and this, that, the other, kids come, anniversaries pass, like nothing prepared me for losing my support system. I never talked to my grandpa about stuff. I wanted to talk to him so bad when I got home from Iraq. The first thing that we did when I came home from Iraq was they put us on leave for 30 days and we got in our expedition and went straight south to Florida. All I could think about for like those 10 hours that we drove across the southern part of Ohio was, as soon as I get there, I'm going to hug my grandma. I'm going to go in there to the back patio or wherever he's at, and I'm just going to vomit all this stuff out of me because I know he's going to get it. He island hopped in the Philippines or in the Pacific. Like he fought island to island. Plus on top of that, manning a crew serve on the side of an aircraft carrier, taking down kamikazes and all sorts of stuff. My grandfather's a war fighter if there ever was one. He'll get it. I get there. My grandmother hugs me. She's like, I love you. Glad to see you. Your grandfather's on the back patio waiting on you. I'm like, yes, finally, right? The tears are welling up, like the emotion's getting strong. The moment has arrived. He opens up the door. He's standing there. The tears are already there. They're popped, right? I'm not sobbing and I'm not like, you know, snot bubbling and stuff, but like, I mean, they're coming. And he just looks at me and he's like, I can't get any words down. He's like, yeah, I know, son.
Yeah. And
he just hugs me. Never had a conversation with him about it. Didn't need to. He got it. He like really got it. Now he's gone, you know? And I didn't know how to do it. There was no playbook for that. I had no idea what to do. So I didn't do any. I fell apart. I mean, in every way, shape, and form. Nightmares got worse. I mean, they ruled my nights. I had the stress from job. Every day they're like, hey, did you put somebody in the Army? And they already knew the answer was no, right? So it's like, if you didn't put somebody in the Army, you suck. You're getting told every month that your career's in jeopardy. I'm trying to make it up a rank, not like go down. So the demand to perform is like almost unrealistically high. I have no support system. I'm at war with my wife, not because she's not there. It's because I'm not there. Now she's not there when I need her because I've pushed her away so much for so many years. You know, I've got my kids that I'm not coaching anything because they don't want to do any sports, you know, this year, you know, so it's like, it was like somebody pressing your off button and like collapsing you. I didn't know what to do. And I can't even tell you, like, the first year of being a recruiter, I barely even remember it. Year 2, I started kind of trying to piece some things together. You know, I ended up having to have shoulder surgery, which shut me down, forced me to sit on a couch and deal with myself. But the whole time, man, I'm like a dog gnawing at a bone. I'm like, man, one more year, and I'm going back, right? The whole time, it's like this funnel. It's like the end goal is to get back to the force, to go take the fight over to seas and go kill bad dudes, you know, get your pound of flesh, right? Make the world a better place, whatever. And me and my wife left Florida and we were like, we're getting divorced. Like, I'm not saying she hated me, but like, she was like done, man. She was like, I don't even know if I want to go to Kansas with you. I was like, I chose Kansas because of you. Like, it was Alaska or Kansas. You said you couldn't do Alaska because she's a hairstylist. And
yeah, that would be bad with all the hats, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can look into there's no hair salons up there. Imagine that.
Yeah. No, man. Like,
she's like, I can't be an artist up there. All these women wearing hats all the time.
I gotta be a peacock and spend my.
That is probably the most unique reason why I've heard not to go this time. That's a good one, you know.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
She worked for JCPenney's, and there was no JCPenney's up at Wainwright. So, there was one in Manhattan, Kansas. So that's where we picked, and she decided to stay. She's like, "Look, I don't know where we're going from here, but like, you need freaking help." That was the constant message, pretty much from 2010 forward from her. You need help.
Were you surprised by that though? Because you did need help. Right?
I hated her for it. I did. I mean, I didn't hate her, but I mean, like, I might as well have hated her. That's how I treated her. I was like, don't talk to me like that. Go do my job, then come talk to me. I'm doing pretty good. Because guess what? I didn't eat a bullet. Right? And I already know guys that have done that. So if I haven't done that, which I haven't, I can check that box. I'm good. False. She'd call me every time on it. You're not good.
All right.
So whatever, year 2, year 3 went by, we end up going to Kansas, and
but back to recruiting before you get to Kansas.
Don't ask me how many people I put.
No, I'm not. No, right. We make jokes a lot about, because that's what you're in the military, about other people's jobs. But that time and since then it's gotten harder. So like, there is a lot. Like I want to clarify. Like, their job, your job is to put people in the military, and it's not as easy as people think. I mean, to do. But what was your biggest challenge of getting people to join? Was it, I mean, what was going on that time frame? Was it people didn't want, I mean, what do you think was the biggest challenge to meet those numbers? Because those numbers, it's getting harder now today. If you had a job today, that's like I can't imagine the pressure that of being a recruiter today is. Well,
like, I've always kind of had morals and values and standards, right? Like, right was right, wrong is wrong. So you already hear stories coming into recruiting, like, hey, like, do whatever you got to do to get people in. But I had a really good instructor when we were going in through school, and he was like, don't do that. Don't listen to that noise. It'll get you killed. Like, that'll kill your career. You'll go to jail. And I was like, that's what's up. He's like, do, and know the right thing to do, right? That whole be, no, do thing. So I did. One of my first things that I did is, so little backup. I got assigned to the Fort Myers Recruiting Center. And what they do is they send your packet like forward to that center, just so that they know who your incoming, like, personnel type stuff, right? Like your ERB, all your records and stuff. And I had a continuation page of like schools, awards, badges, etc. So they thought I was CID. They were like, there's no way a staff sergeant is this stacked up on stuff across the board. This has got to be a plant. He clearly is CID because nobody has all this stuff. Dude, I had stuff you didn't even get like awards for and stuff like advanced terrorism level base, like 2 basic officer course. Most people don't even know what that is. Never even heard of it, right? Like I had stuff like that on my records. So they were like, this dude's a plant. We don't want him here because we're doing shady stuff. So we're going to send him to Port Charlotte. So they sent me like 45 minutes down the road, you know,
to a strip mall. Not good.
Yeah. Like never even talked to me, man. They're just like, nope, we're not freaking having this dude here. He's going to screw everything up for us. And that's what happened. One of their recruiters was it's like gang wars too, man. It's like turf wars, right? You see another recruiter, and you're like, bro, what are you doing here? This ain't your turf. You freaking poaching on our pies.
You're poaching on my high schooler?
Yeah, man, for real. And like this dude was like this one guy.
Was it like Anchorman where you guys like?
Yes. Assemble the freaking team.
Yeah, they're going to fight. Yeah.
Then you'd be at war with people inside your own center. But moral to the story is there was this one guy from a recruiting center that was not ours, and I caught him with his pants down, so to speak. And he was like, well, here, you take this guy. They're on like all these meds, but I told him not to say anything because he'll pass the physical. And I was like, you're an idiot. That dude, he's going to go to basic training, not have the meds that he needs, and he's going to freaking kill himself. What are you doing? Right? Like, there's a process for a reason. Get a medical waiver. He's like, man, we don't have time for that. And I was like, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to take this person. But you're not going to freaking put him in the army. He's like, I'll do whatever I want. I was like, and I'll freaking like say publicly that I know this, and I will bring a recruiting impropriety investigation down on you so fast. He's like, so you're a snitch? I was like, I'll beat you down. You ever call me a snitch? I was like, I'm a good dude that doesn't want to send trash into a system that's going to clog the pipe. And even if it does make it out, it's going to dudes that we know.
Yeah.
How are we going to send them somebody like this, a liability? That's a walking landmine. So I made a name for myself like fast. They were like, this dude, don't do anything shady around him because he's going to call you out. And I did it publicly.
You're like, we knew he was CID. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
No.
And but I would call people out publicly because I like felt that serious about it. I was like, it's a big job, man. We need the best and brightest to come into the force and be like enablers, man, not liabilities.
Yeah, because I actually had a soldier who I was on the receiving end of that as a company commander, a soldier that showed up and had problems right off the bat, and come to find out, you know, I won't go into that story, but was actually a diagnosed manic depressive,
Yeah.
and they hit it, and what I mean,
Just don't say it.
yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I never, you know, we were ready to deploy to Afghanistan right after, so I don't know what happened. I know he got out of the military, but I didn't follow up with what happened to the recruiter. But whoever did it, you know, they definitely don't need a career in it. Because like you said before, it eventually you find out it's going to come. You know, if it's a real medical thing, it's not worth it to the. Most point, it's not worth it to the kid to do it to him. But you know, it does get found out later on in time. But yeah, so I mean, but back to that, was it just the applicants? It's hard to get people to like what?
So everything is like reputation based.
Right.
That was my experience. My first year sucked, right? It was like it was undoing a trash reputation that recruiters before me had.
Right.
They'll do and say whatever to get somebody in. Reputation. So I had to prove that I wasn't like that one. So that took a lot of hard work. Year 2 was a little bit easier because now I had built a reputation for myself, but it wasn't paying off 100% yet. And then year 3, it did. I didn't even work because I was operating off of a referral program, essentially. Like I had people coming from other counties just to come join the Army, to come talk to me because they knew I wouldn't lie to them. And there were people I turned away. I was like, hey, look, I don't really know that the Army is what you want to do because you don't even do so well with authority now. Like you're going to look at a platoon sergeant and be like, hey, screw you. He's going to push your teeth down your throat.
Does that remind you of anybody you know? Because you said you sound like the guy who went to a recruiting.
I wasn't that dude. I wasn't the one to look at my platoon sergeant and tell him I wasn't going to do.
Say that, but there had to be a part of you that was always. I mean, it's kind of an interesting journey to be that person that, you know, somebody took a chance on you. I'm sure there's people you legally took a chance on to get in the military, and that's
we had this girl
that's got to feel good.
We had this one girl. She really wanted to be on like the AFN network, right? She wanted to do news, media, combat photography type stuff, and it's like a very limited field, right? Like 6 people a year get into it, and the wait was going to be like 6 months. Now I could put her in the Army. Like I would always print out like, hey, top 10 jobs that you're qualified for, and have them kind of circle which ones they're actually interested in, and then rank them like 1 to 10, like which one you definitely want to do right now, but like number 10 is a job that you would be happy doing too. And I always tried to get them their number 1 pick. But if I couldn't, I would be like, hey, come back next month and we'll check the system. I'll check it. And once it pops up and populates like a vacancy, I was like, I'll get it. Or I'll call the recruiting operations center and see if we can get like a 6-month projection. So like, that's the recruiter I was. I was like, I don't care. You can threaten my career all you want. I told him, I was like, I'll take a match and I'll burn this whole thing down. Not literally, but you know, like I'm not scared of you people. Bunch of recruiters.
But you added a badge. You got the cool recruiting badge.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now I had a really good one. You know, I took some pros away from like every center leader I had. I think we were kind of fortunate because like we're at my center where I was at, we actually had really good center leaders. They not just like understood that there was a mission, but they understood that we were part of that mission as recruiters, and they gave us a lot of leeway. Now, other recruiting centers didn't have that, but still, like they can only take so much like butt chewings before they're going to start chomping on you, you know? So, but I'd say the hardest part of recruiting is really just kind of like unwinding the negative reputation that recruiters have, because there's a lot of trash recruiters out there doing bad, grimy stuff, sleeping with high school chicks. Man, I used to walk into high schools. Like I went in like my first time I went into high school, because like I like to wear cologne and, you know, like comb my hair and stuff like that. And I was like, well, I'm not going into a freaking pool of piranhas, you know, like smelling good and like looking like squared away. So like I sprayed myself with freaking off. I smelled like I came out of the woods, right? Like, I mean, I smelled gnarly. I was like deployment ready. And, you know, I messed my hair up and stuff. And these freaking girls, like, they're just crazy. I don't remember it being like that when I was in high school. But then again, I was with my wife, so I was blind, right? Like, I hated going to high schools just because of the females. They just nonstop talk. And they just want to talk to you because you're an adult, you're in a uniform, you're in a position of power and respect. Like, it's like the cool thing I was talking to the Army guy. It's like, no, yeah, you were talking to me, but that was a one-way conversation. And I don't even remember any of it. Right. Like, but I had to learn that, and that's the cool thing about recruiting. I ended up doing really well in high schools because instead of being like repulsed by females, like I got it. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, they're just different and they're at a different phase in their life. You know, I was like, my wife is a chatterbox. We're in our like late 30s, right? Like she's never going to slow down. She talks all the time, right? Like there's no difference.
And we love it.
And we love it. I love it.
Especially like right before you go to bed. Yeah, it's
awesome.
It's the best like when you're really in the middle of a movie. It's always awesome, you know.
I don't know what I would do without it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The chatter.
But yeah, so like once I embraced it, so to speak, you know, like I did good, but like that was me. I treated them professionally, but like kind of like a big brother. I was always kind of like, yeah, pound it, don't break it, whatever, right? Everybody was cool with me. But other recruiters, like they're like hooking up with college or high school girls. They're going to prison, right? Like they're going to Leavenworth. They're getting registered as sex offenders when they get out. Like they're losing their families. Like they're making decisions that are like so epically bad that it's like, that's what you're undoing as a recruiter. So it's like trying to find the balance of, hey, look, I want to be a personable guy, but I don't want you to think that like I like you. or that I'm going to steer you in the wrong direction, or that I'm going to take your son and put him in a career field that he doesn't want anything to do with, that's not going to help him when he gets out. Like unwinding all that and creating something new and different. That was my challenge.
Yeah. And that's hard for because over, 50 years now, like everybody has a recruiter story. It's always fun. Like the recruiters are the most untrusted people.
Yeah.
Like, because some of it's true, too? Like some of it's true, but then a lot of it too is
it's like going to prison.
I don't think it's all
and
true.
Everybody's innocent. It's like, yeah, your recruiter lied to you too, right?
But I think sometimes I believe that did happen, but I also believe too is that's an easy out for like when someone decides like I did this MOS, I didn't want it. They told me it was going to be something different. I always take that with a grain of salt. Yeah, there's obviously bad people.
There were recruiters that were like, I used to watch the Marine recruiters do this all the time. It's like, hey, it doesn't matter about the job. You get the title of being a Marine. Well, you couldn't do that in the Army. It's like, yeah, man, you're going to go kill Russian tankers with that freaking M1 Abrams. Yeah. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
When? As soon as you enlist.
You're going to be a soldier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you go to you head up to Kansas.
Yeah.
And that's where you.
Yeah. So everything caught up to me, man. I jumped on an airplane like after a month of getting there. Met them overseas, and we were doing. You remember the rollover trainers? The heat trainer. Yeah. The Humvee that goes in a circle. Yeah. The merry-go-round thing. Called the tumbler. But my heart, I'm in there. I'm like the last group to go because I'm pushing all my squad leaders through, making sure they're good to go. And I get in, and they initiate the roll, and my harness malfunctions. It like clean drops me. I was like airborne for like 0.025 seconds, right? Head into the roof, perfect alignment, lights out. My Joe is like waking me up. One of my guys, Hayward, he's like, Sergeant Jarvis, you can get out of the Humvee now. And I'm like, what? I know. I don't. He's like, you've been there for like 5 minutes. And I was like, I'm okay. I'm going to get out. Right. So like, I'm like thinking, well, this has happened before. I've took concussions and eaten, all sorts of stuff, man. Like I've blacked out, here and there, but like, he was like 5 minutes, man. I was like, wow. So I'm walking back, to the barracks, to the platoon sergeant barracks, and like my nose is bleeding, and like I'm like having a hard time keeping a straight line, and like I make it into my bunk, and I go to put my hand down. I had this I was on the bottom bunk, and I had like a fold up chair that was like against the wall, so facing me, and I remember like bending over to put like my notepad on it. And I woke up, I don't even know how much longer later, but I woke up and I was hugging my chair. I had fallen face first into the wall, full body tackled my folding chair. And like I was like hugging it, I guess, on the ground. I don't know, man, what I was thinking, but like I went lights out. I grabbed whatever I grabbed, I guess. And so I end up at the platoon sergeant meeting, and like I must have looked like, what's that dude? Freaking Sling Blade, man. 2 eyes going in 2 different directions or something, like all dazed and confused. Like I'm
2 great movies, by the way.
Yeah. I'm bleeding out of my ears and I didn't know it. I'm not bleeding out of my nose anymore, but I'm bleeding out of my ears and my eyes are bloodshot. Of course, how would I know that? But my first sergeant was like, yeah, you need to go to the medic, like right now. And I was like, I'm good. Again, I'm good. He's like, you're not good. Go now. So I did. They took me to the hospital. They gave me like a brain scan or whatever, MRI. There's like all this black stuff on the back of my brain. They're like, oh, you're screwed up. And then the questions started coming. How did we miss this? Right? So I hung out. I talked everybody into kind of keeping me behind until we redeployed together. But then like I was thinking, I was like, I'm going to be able to walk this off. So I started like really like pushing like the omega-3s and like really deep diving into like brain health and stuff. And I felt like I was kind of making a comeback. Like I was getting back there physically and all this stuff, like doing good. And then, but I was just like, I had this vertigo, man. I can't explain it, dude. I would just get dizzy, and it was a problem. It was so much of a problem that like I got scared for the first time ever. I was like, because somebody had made a comment. They were like, dude, like you could die. You understand that, right? Like you could have an aneurysm because you're pushing it so hard. Like your body's telling everything in your body up until this point has been like, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. Now your body's straight up it's not responding. It's doing the opposite. It's going into safety shutdown protocol mode, right? And that can be catastrophic. So I had really good leadership that knew me from drum and throughout my career, all the way up the flagpole that had just kind of come in. So from like top to bottom, man, like pretty much knew everybody, or I already had made a good enough reputation with people. And my brigade command sergeant major was like, hey, look, you're a rock star. We all get it. We all know who you are and what you're capable of. How about this? How about you just go to WTB, go have whatever surgery you got to go have. You come back, your job's waiting on you. No questions asked. We'll put you right back there. And I was like, really? You would do that for me? He was like, absolutely, 100%. I was like, all right, cool. Well, I guess I'm going to go to WTB for a few months, you know? Nope. I went to WTB. They started asking questions. I started being honest. I red flagged all over the place. They were like, hey, have you ever thought about killing yourself? I was like, yeah, all the time. Yeah. And I couldn't believe it came out of my mouth. When I said it, I was like, yeah, all the time. And they were like, what? What'd you just say? And I was like, right then and there, I was like, nope, this is over. So, like I immediately like enrolled myself in like I went to level 4 to get help. I literally sought out counseling. I was like, I need to talk to somebody because I'm probably going to hurt myself or somebody around me. Like I'm feeling like suicidal or homicidal, both sometimes. And, you know, and the thing is, I mean, I'll get into it, you know, like if you want, but I mean, like I had a moment, man, a real life moment. And I tried to eat a bullet and I had a soft strike. And, so when that didn't work for me, right, I was like, I need help. Like now.
So tell somebody who's not a gun person what that means, what you just said.
So like 1 in like 100 rounds, depending on like what kind of ammo you get, will have like, I don't know, a soft primer or a harder primer. And when your firing pin hits that, it won't go off, right? It's a soft strike. It's like, oh, you treat it like tap rack and then bang it. Usually it'll fire on the second time. But whatever, it was God's way of telling me he wasn't done with me. So, and that was in recruiting, right? So that was a couple years back. And, but things were getting worse. Like I was getting to the point where like, I no longer respected life at all. And that's dangerous. I'm looking at my kids like they're a nuisance, right? I'm looking at my wife like she's the problem, not me. And all she's doing is holding a mirror up. Being like, look at yourself. You don't like it, do you?
Right.
And I'm like, it's not me, it's you. So I'm turning on everybody around me. I've lost my support system, right? I am coming out of recruiting. I barely make it out of that, I think, you know, and now I'm in a job. I got a platoon worth of dudes counting on me, and I can't even function for them. So now I'm in WTB. So everything's gone, man. I'm like, but it was the best thing I did, really, going and getting counseling, like getting help. Because like as soon as I sat down, he was like, look, we're going to sign you up for 3 times a week, which is like unheard of. They're like, yeah, come back next week or like next month, you know, or something like that. They're like, no, you're going to come back in 2 days, and you're going to come back 2 days after that. And we're going to keep doing this until I don't feel like you're going to kill yourself or somebody else. So they put me on like high risk. They flashed me. They threw everything at me. They were like, hey, look, do this like electric light therapy. all these other things. And what it came down to, man, at the end of the day, ultimately was like I had to deal with stuff from childhood before I was ever going to be able to deal with the war stuff. And that's the unfortunate truth. Like most, I don't know if it's just a warfighter thing, but if you go off of like warfighter statistics, man, most kids that come into the military to do warfighting functions come from families, man, where unfortunately they've went through something, man, that just kind of chipped at them one way or the other, or kind of drove them in a direction. And like, I know my dad loved me. I know my grandparents loved me. It's not that I ever doubted any of that, but you go through stuff, things happen and whatever. But, so we started dealing with everything, man, starting from the beginning and then getting to the war stuff. The Army was like, hey, look, we broke you. We can't fix you. So thank you for your service, man. Like, we're going to retire you. And that was rough. I needed it, but like I hit this moment. I'd say I was in WTB for 1.5 years, which is unheard of. I went on leave to go see my buddy in Fort Campbell. Well, he got out of the military, but he still lives down there because his business is down there. And I came back, and you have to sign in at battalion headquarters, right? Like back in off of leave. Yep. I'm sitting in the parking lot, and it's like the countdown is on to midnight, right? Because that's when you got to be signed in by. So I'm like waiting to check in, and like it's like 11:55, 11:56, and all of a sudden, man, like I'm talking about limited motor function, snot bubbles, like everything start coming out of me, man. Like I am a wreck. And that's when it hit me. I was like, I think I'm done. Like I can't do this. Like it hit me then. I cannot do this. I don't want to do this. I'm a broken, hollow shell of like what I should be. And like, I hate this. I got to get away from it. It was such a revelation to me, but like I went in like that next day, Monday, and I stopped fighting the process. They tried to retire me 1 year before that when I first hit WTB. And I was like, nah, I just need to get a surgery and go back. Yeah. Well, fast forward 1 year later, they pushed the play button on me, and they're like, all right, we'll have you gone in 6 months. And I was out in 3, so it was, it was hard at first because I was trying to fight against it. But then, dude, once you know, one of my first platoon sergeant, Robert McBride, I remember asking him after this mission in Iraq where we killed a whole lot of people. And I asked him, I was like, hey, he was a Gulf War vet. I had asked him, I was like, hey, how do you do it? Like this long? Because I was brand new in the Army then, right? And he was like the grizzlied vet. And he said, when you start valuing your life, you'll know it's time to hang the cord up. And he was right, man. In that parking lot at 11:56 at night, I realized I valued my life. Like I wanted to live. I didn't want to kill myself. I didn't want to go overseas and some freaking jihadi terrorist like take me out or whatever, some freak accident. And you know what? Like the further I get away from that life, man, the more and more like I started asking questions like, did we really need to be in that house? Did we really need to freaking kick that door in? Did we really have to freaking grab that dude out the way we did? What were we really even like? I started asking the questions that are so unpopular now because it's like the why it matters. Now, I think most people will agree, like we need a capable fighting force. We need dudes to go overseas and do tough jobs. But why we do those jobs, I think, matters more. And when you start wrestling with the morality of it all, like, how would I feel, man, if some dude kicks in my door right now? Somebody kicks that door open right now, man, we're going to fight them, right? So why are we any different than they are?
Yeah.
We went to their neighborhoods, kicked their doors in, and killed their men for fighting against us being in their country. I'm not saying it's all that simple. There were legitimate, bad, evil, sadistic human beings that are no longer on this earth, thank God, because of the work that we and people like us did overseas. But there are a few cases, man, where I can like think back to where I'm like, that was bad info, man. That was a dude that hated the dude that said some stuff about that dude just to get that dude hemmed up. But you don't know that in the moment. It's a follow-on mission. Anyways, yeah, so I got retired out in 2020, April of 2020, right as COVID is rearing its nasty, ugly head. They're talking about shutting borders down. And I'm like, dude, I need to get out of the Army yesterday so that I don't get stuck here.
Your career came to, like, I think the inevitable. Like, I think if you look back, you knew that was, it was like you said earlier in some of your early deployments, you were broken, the things weren't going well. So you leave a little earlier than you wanted to, but on your own, you decided to do that. What was the hardest part about leaving? Was it, losing your identity, losing your job, a combination of all of it? What was the hardest part for you? Other, when you finally said, "Hey, I'm out,"
When I finally said I'm out, there was no hard part to it. Everything before that was, I still have more fuel in the tank. I still have more fight left in me. I never thought that the Army needed me or that guys needed me. Like, if you're a good enough leader, like, the next guy underneath you is going to be highly capable, and mine was everywhere I went. So it wasn't about me being needed or me needing the job. It was, I just felt like I had more fight left in me. I was like, I could do this forever. But God had other plans, I wouldn't listen. So he made me listen, he just shut it all down. So it wasn't hard for me, man. I started asking myself questions before I even got my retirement orders. Like, I was already on the path of why it mattered. So I was happy to get out. Seriously, I was happy.
So you totally changed your whole business, your whole career after that. You stopped doing all that kind of stuff. I'm making a joke.
I ate Cheetos.
You walk away you walk away from it. You say, "Hey, I'm never going to fire another gun again."
I did.
Doing that kind of stuff. But
I did, minus like staying proficient for personal defense.
And that kind of changed a little bit.
It changed a lot. It changed a lot.
So last year you started, it was 2022?
Well, yeah.
Was
it 21? It might have been 21, okay. 2021. Yeah, I started Team Advil. And really just kind of out of necessity for, like, a lot of people that I knew had been to classes or courses and just felt like they kind of got robbed, right? Had their money taken away from them. And I had enough dudes around me that were like, "Hey, you're back now. Like, you want to go to the range? You want to kind of like sprinkle some of the magic on us that like you picked up over the years?" So we started rounding some dudes up and making it more of a regular like meet type thing. We'd go shoot. Like, I'd always come up with the training stuff. And before you knew it, we were like meeting law enforcement. Then we were training law enforcement with law enforcement, military, and not even necessarily like in an official capacity either. But that was the kind of community we started diving into, because I've been real passionate about, I don't even charge law enforcement. I never have. Like, the couple of times we have went into PDs, like, we don't even charge. I want to give that back, right? Like, tax dollars turned me into who I am, gave me the opportunities to attend training and go places and learn experiences. Like, I feel like I should be able to give that back for free. Cops need it. The training that they get is trash. I mean, OPAD is probably going to try and burn me at the stake for that. But like, they get okay instruction up front, but they don't get situationally based training. It's more realistic for the average like cop. And even if they do, they get no follow-up training. They don't get leadership training. They don't get mentored, coached, taught, nothing. They get put on an island and told to operate. That's horrible. So anyway, so like that's kind of how we got started. And then it just kind of grew because it turns out there's a whole lot of veterans out there. There's a whole lot of dudes that aren't even veterans, never served. They have like such a strong sense of patriotism and community that like, it was like, well, let's just get these dudes all together, man, like, and create a community that selfishly was kind of built off of men being there for men. Men are quick to like be like, I'm good. Men are quick to like, it's like throw another brick in my rucksack. I'll carry it, whatever, right? The weight of the world. You're not home enough because you're out there working for a life that is for your wife and your kids. At the same time, you know, there's an argument to be had from both sides, right? Like there's a balance to be found, but a lot of guys don't know what that, we don't know what we don't know. I wanted to create like a community where dudes could come in and feel like, hey, if you got to break down and cry right now and have a moment, like totally fine. Nobody's going to judge you. And also be the kind of dudes that could pick each other up and look at your brother and be like, hey, what you just said to your wife just now, it's not even close to cool.
Yeah.
Like you suck right now. Do better and mean it and hold people to a higher standard. Our women deserve our absolute best, right? Our children definitely do. But if we don't have people around us showing us the way, it's going to take us that's why dudes get divorced nonstop, right? Like chicks are like done, they're burnt, or dudes are like, hey, I'm not going to deal with this stuff. I'm not saying women are innocent. Women are crazy too. All right.
Not Michelle though. Not my wife.
Especially my wife. But like she's her own brand of, women are their own brand of crazy. Just like dudes have the things about us that make us crazy, like not wanting to ask for help, right? Or directions.
You don't need to do that anymore though. GPS, right?
It's always wrong, man. It like redirects you and stuff. Like, you know,
but it's better than that, man.
And it's always a woman's voice. I had to change mine to a dude's voice because I was like, my wife don't even talk to me like that. You're not going to talk to me like that through a speaker.
I like the. It's funny. I have to do it because I can't hear for shit. So the women's voice, like, it told you to turn left. I couldn't hear it. So it's
stop coming at me.
That's cool. You can do like a British accent, all those kind of things. But
so we started something, man, and we've just kind of been going with it. Now we train what we have a lot of experience in. Now we have other guys on the team, on Team Advil. We have a young SWAT guy. I'm not going to say his name so that he stays kind of anonymous because of his work. Then you have me, and a lot of our experience is kind of like that close proximity fight. So we kind of try and stick to that outside of private training. We'll train anybody on anything, but where we really kind of excel is in that close fight. So that's what we stick to. For the most part, there's dudes that are way better at that long range stuff than I'll ever be. And I know some of them, they're ballers, but I'm not that guy.
And you do all kinds of different events all over Ohio, right?
We do. This is actually last year. Well, this year, we launched our first annual Lights Out tour where we did low light and no light training. So like whether you had a white weapon mounted light or you have night vision, like we would do all that stuff together, which was really cool because it gets a whole different part of the community out there and involved and engaged. Because now they're like, yeah, we got night vision, but we don't really really know how to use it. So
never even turn this thing up. No.
Yeah. We saw.
So how many people have night vision? Like, I mean,
it's easy.
Is it a lot of people? There a lot of.
Just go buy it, man. Remortgage your house. You know, get a HELOC. Yeah,
it's expensive.
It's
all those toys are expensive. If you get into it, everything it's an expensive hobby.
There's like this saying, like buy once, cry once, but it's really not. It's like buy continuously and cry uncontrollably, right? The cheapest thing you will buy once you get into firearms is ammo, but and that's not that cheap. But
that is true.
So we started, like, we really deep dove on the community side, got a bunch of different types of people out and involved. And that's been really good. We also teach like 4 CQB events a year, close quarters battle events that are simunition based, scenario based events up at Midwest Shooting Center in Lima. And then this is the third year that we will be doing our annual charity event, which is the Silent Legion Project. And this is the thing that I'm like crazy passionate about. Silent Legion Project is called the Silent Legion Project for the legion of silent men that walk around with the world on their shoulders, collapsing them. Male suicide rate is so astronomically high. There's more women out there than us, and it's because we're killing ourselves off, you know? And I think a lot of that is we just need good, strong dudes to stand up like you're doing, like with your podcast and stuff. And we need good dudes to stand up and be an advocate and be like a soft place for other dudes to be able to land. I'm not saying we got it any worse than anybody else, but I will say that like dudes are very bad about raising their hand and saying, hey, and I need help. And I can, you know, as I've kind of talked about tonight, like that gets you in a place where you're willing to make really bad decisions. So Silent Legion Project, that's what it's all about. That's how it was born. Now, last year we donated all of the proceeds to outofdarkness.org, which is a anti-human trafficking nonprofit that they focus on the rehab side, right? So like once there's the extraction and recovery side, the door kickers that go and save these kids and women and dudes too. And then there's the rehoming process, right? Get them in, get them counseling and help. So we kind of chose to give to that. We know guys that are doing the dark side of the moon ops, and they really don't need a lot. They're well funded. So we figured the best thing we could do with those dollars is give it to people that could really, really, really use it. So that's kind of what we've started focusing on more. But this year we're thinking about donating to a very specific charity that is for male suicide prevention. So so that's a big thing. We do that every December. We list that stuff up on our website and all that stuff, and I'm sure you have like all our links. So
yeah, and you've put them up there before, and then like you brought up, you know, there's you know, thank you for, you know, what you do and recognizing what we're doing here for the Patriots. But like we've always said before, you know, these groups are great, but if you are a veteran or you're not even or you know a veteran or you're not even a veteran, but you're thinking about harming yourself, you absolutely need to call the Veterans Crisis Hotline at 988, or you can call 1-800-273-8255 and press 1 or text 838-255. Or now you can chat online at veteranscrisisline.net/chat. So there's plenty of places out there. You just got to find your thing that's, you know, what works for you. And it's interesting, you know, there's, as we, you know, we're diving into our, you know, close our second year doing this, you know, we're getting there, and you try to find, it's really interesting to see how many other organizations are out there that are doing the same thing. You know, some people look at it, may look at it differently than I do. I look at it as, I don't look at it as a competition. I would look at it just another way to find help for the people that need it. You know what I mean? Because there's different ways that people connect. You know, some people, you know, are into guns, some people aren't. You know what I mean? Some people are into whiskey, some people aren't. So it's just everybody doing their part to hopefully, you know, bring a whole net together to catch everybody. So, you know, your organization and all the organizations that are out there that are doing that, it's making a difference, and it does take us all to do it, you know? So yeah, I appreciate what you guys are doing as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's about like, I'm definitely big about community. If you know a guy, you know, or if you have a bunch of good, like, how do you become a better man? Surround yourself with dudes better than you. Right. So if you can do that successfully, and that's what we've tried to foster with Team Advil. Then the idea, and it's already worked, right? We've had dudes that have like picked up the phone, called their buddy and been like, I'm hurt.
All right.
Like, what do I do? Because this is what I'm thinking. And it's like, well, we've saved a couple lives. So if we can keep doing that, just keep doing it and building it up, eventually you create a movement. And then it's not about dudes being soft, man. The strongest thing a man can do is like admit when he doesn't know what to do. You know, like, I think that's a mark of strength for men or women. It doesn't matter, right? Like, just, and kind of getting back, like looping all the way back to the beginning, you know, it's like 100% okay to not be okay.
Yeah, and it's interesting to sit, now across from you to hear your story and to hear from the very beginning of your life, your military life, people were telling you that something wrong wasn't okay. It's good that you've seen that you weren't okay and that you're actually doing okay now. A lot of people unfortunately don't get that journey. They have denial that they're not okay. They don't talk to anybody. They don't get that. They don't get that moment where they get it and continue on with their life. They do something.
I think a
that they
lot of that,
regret,
man, like I've talked a lot about me, people around me. But like all of that is because of God. Like I've survived stuff you can't like explain, man. Like outside of God's hand. I've had people around me that have been nothing short of lifesavers that had to have been sent by God. Right. The things that they said in the moments they said it were literally the life and death, like significant emotional events that I needed to keep pushing forward or in a direction that didn't end with my demise. Right. And the whole message is like, when God's done with you, you just won't get put on the wake up list for tomorrow. Right. Like we'll know it. But kind of like the common theme is every time I do stuff my way, I get the same consistently horrible result, right? But if I do it God's way, man, it always just seems to be the exact right thing I needed to be doing the whole time. So I'm blessed, man. I have a wife that didn't give up on me. I mean, she might have, but she didn't quit on me, you know? I have amazing kids that I don't deserve. And
I would say you do.
I know. Well, I mean, I do. Yeah, I do. And I know a lot of dudes way better, phenomenal human beings. So I feel rich. I feel blessed. So it's been a good ride so far. I don't know when it'll be over, and nobody does until it is, but yeah, man.
Well, thanks for coming on. It's been a great episode. I knew it'd be a good story, though you didn't give me information. I know we get through it. It would be, we've met a couple times, but all joking aside, thank you for your service.
Dude, thank you.
Thank you for
yours.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Most importantly, thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for what Team Advil's doing. It's awesome. And then, we're gonna, if you don't know, we'll do a quick plug for you as you're going. Here, one of the quick things that you haven't talked about. We are running a little late, but one of the interesting things about you talked about your kids and giving back and not being able to, coach or whatever at times. But you're now running for office in Delaware, right?
Yep. Delaware City School Board.
So elections in November. Check out his webpage if you haven't checked it out there. I'll throw the link up there to look at. But thank you for that taking that step to do that. That's another way of serving your community, and a lot of people are doing that. So that's pretty exciting. I'm pretty excited for you, and
thank you. And
wish you the best of luck in that. And again, thank you for you sharing your story. You've been pretty raw about that, and I know that's not always easy. And wish you the best luck with Team Advil. We'll be in touch on that. So we're gonna close the night with what I always consider the darkest part of the night. But the reason, after hearing your story and why I talk about it is to get that message out. And this is kind of an interesting person we're honoring. It's very rare that you get to hear the person's words about what's going through their mind when they make the decision that we've talked about tonight and many episodes about. But the person we're honored tonight, before we get into his obituary and talk about him, is U.S. Marine Corps. I'm sorry, I'm a little broke up about this, and you'll see why in a second. But he's a U.S. Marine Corporal, Paul Kledak, 43 years old. And before I read his bio, I'm going to read what he actually posted on Facebook. The moments before he took his life. So he said, "Today I'm part of the 22. I've suffered with PTSD for years, and my anxiety is through the roof. I've tried to get help, but always find myself in a dark place. I haven't been able to sleep for months, and I hope this is the way to finally get some rest. To my family and friends, I love you. I've developed so many lasting friendships over the years, but my mental struggles got the best of me. I feel like a failure taking my own life, but the demons in my mind are always haunting me. It is a struggle to go through life this way. It's embarrassing to lose control of your mind and memory. Every day I wake up lost, and sometimes I don't want to be found. My two greatest gifts in my life are my wife, Jennifer, and my son, Carter. I love the two of you, and you are all my everything. We have been able to live a fairy tale life, and I've been so blessed to do everything we have done together. Please take care of my family. It is hard to say goodbye, and I have realized this the last few months with the death of my dad and the health issues my family is going through. I have so much pain lately, and it's a struggle to live this way. I have lost the way to communicate and gather my thoughts. Lord, watch over me, my family and friends, Semper Fi. And read that was actually posted on his Facebook before he took his life. But we're going to go ahead and honor, like I said, U.S. Marine Corps Corporal Paul Joseph Kludak, 43 years old. Paul took his life on April 19th, 2023. Paul was born May 21st, 1979 to Gregory and Jeanette Kludak. Paul graduated from Downers Grove South High School in 1997 and then attended the College of DuPage, where he earned his associate's degree in business. While Paul was pursuing his bachelor's degree in business, he was called to active duty in the United States Marine Corps. He served in Iraq and was honorably discharged as a corporal. Paul married the love of his life, Jennifer, on August 27, 2011. Paul was the owner and founder of the Detail Kings and was also a realtor for Platinum Partners Realtors. Paul enjoyed coaching his son's soccer, basketball, football, and baseball programs. Paul was also a Cub Scout troop leader for his son's den. Paul had a smile that lit up the room. His laugh was like no other. Paul was also willing to give a big hug and off the shirt off his back. Paul traveled everywhere, never met a stranger, loved life, and was blessed in so many ways. Paul is survived by his wife, Jenny, son Carter, mother Jeanette, stepmom Phyllis, sister Pam, brother Patrick, and many aunts, uncles, cousins, and friends. And again, I read that to start off with before because it's, when I read his obituary, it's a guy who's, seems like he has everything going on, has a love of life, but has some really deep problems. And again, if you are struggling, like we talked about before, you absolutely need to call the Veterans Crisis Hotline at 988 or 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or text 838-255, where you can now chat online at veteranscrisisline.net/chat. And again, like you said many times tonight, you have to talk to somebody. If that's not your thing, the crisis hotline, pick up the phone, call a friend, talk to somebody. They do care. And we just don't need to have any more.
Me.
Yeah. We just don't need to have any more, situations like this. And that's the goal, to stop this. So again, thank you for coming on. It's been a great episode, and we will see everyone in a couple weeks.
Thanks so much, man. That was deep.